It is Tuesday, and thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Across from me is Carlene Bragg.
We're back.
It's good to be
together
back
again. That's right.
You probably turned on the TV and said, "Who is this guy?"
Who is that? Haven't seen him in days.
He does not look familiar at all. I work here. I've been here for almost 2 years. I've been doing the streams since the very beginning. So yeah, I'm back. Took some time off. Went to
good for you, Detroit, Rock City.
Detroit. The weather was nice.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was up there and folks were like, "Man, it's just been so hot." I was like, "Hot, really?"
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Yeah, it's been 86, 80 here," and I'm like, "Man, you don't know what North Carolina,
you don't know.
South Carolina feels like." Because it feels like 100 degrees outside.
They do not know.
And so it was good. I wore pants the entire time.
You wore pants?
I did not wear shorts. I was at
in July?
In July. I was at a cookout.
Yeah.
On Belle Island, which is right across from the Canadian border. Well, you can see the Canadian border. You can see Windsor. And I did not crack a sweat. And we were no clouds in the sky, sun beaming down on me. And I sweat.
Couldn't imagine.
And I did not sweat at all.
Good for you.
I didn't need any water. I was fine.
So you got a little sightseeing in?
Got a little sightseeing. Saw the Motown Museum, downtown Detroit. So my parents lived in Detroit for several
that's right.
years.
You told me that. Yeah.
So my mom knows Detroit from the late 70s, early 80s. So when I talked to her when I got back, she was like, "Oh, this is completely different from what I remember." I'm like,
Yeah, it's been some time.
It's been over 40 years. So it was good, but I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back here on the show. I hope you're doing well, Carlene.
I'm doing well. Just holding it down here. Someone's got to.
You got to hold it. Somebody's got to hold it down. When Carlene leaves, I hold it down.
That's true.
And vice versa. So look, it's coming back to North Carolina. You realize that it's hot.
It's hot
in July.
It's been hot. That's the only thing you miss. It's hot.
You know what? When I got off the plane Sunday and I stepped outside to catch my Uber,
hit you like a brick wall.
Yeah, it hit me. It hit me. I was like, wow, I need to go back inside immediately. Right. So that's what we're dealing with. Look, today it's not as hot outside, but it's only going to get hotter.
Yeah.
So let's turn our attention now to the forecast. We'll send it over to Becca Birdsall for a look at your forecast.
We've actually had for the past 10 days well above average temperatures. So for today and tomorrow, we'll enjoy at least not as hot temperatures and conditions, back to more seasonable temperatures. And in fact, as we look back, the morning temperatures actually have not cooled down much either. We are in the top 2 for warmest average lows for July so far, with an average temperature of about 74 degrees. And another fun fact, Charlotte low temperatures haven't been below average since June 3rd. So heading into tonight is going to feel a lot nicer, especially from the past week and a half. Many of us will be waking up Wednesday morning to the upper 60s, even lower 70s across much of the metro area before those morning temperatures start to get a little bit more mild as we head throughout the work week. Weather impacts not as hot for today, back to more seasonal conditions. A couple of storm chances in the forecast for today before a drying period begins as we head throughout the work week. Major heat with weather alerts build up once again for this weekend. Dew points for today, well, they're still going to be in that uncomfortable range, many of us in the upper 60s. But as we head into tomorrow, look at that, dew points close to 60 degrees. That means a few of us feeling a little bit sticky out there, but a couple of us actually feeling decent. This is short-lived as that pattern will change and a ridge of high pressure system starts to set up, and that's going to bring those dew points right back into the 70s. So that setup, well, here's that cold front that is now stationary down to the south. That low pressure system throwing some extra moisture and clouds our way for today. But as that high pressure system takes over behind it for tomorrow, that's what's going to bring us the more comfortable air. Doppler radar already showing a couple of these showers and thunderstorms start to develop. This is overall isolated. Got this isolated cell over towards Watauga County between Meat Camp Boone, now pushing down into Blowing Rock, and then northern Burke County got this one cell over towards Table Rock as well. And then this one over towards Alexander County basically has completely weakened out just south of Taylorsville. That's going to be the trend going into the next couple of hours. Scattered hit or miss showers or thunderstorm. Not everyone will be seeing them, but a couple of them will have some locally heavy downpours as well as gusty winds. Rain chances will end tonight and drier air will start to move in for Wednesday. So that is the pick of the week. Lots of sunshine, lower humidity, and back to near normal highs in the lower 90s. Enjoy that. Doesn't last long. We'll see this heat ridge continue to build as we head throughout the work week and into your weekend. So this is what you can expect for your Friday. Middle 90s, then upper 90s as we head from Saturday, Sunday, all the way into your Monday. Now, if you add in those dew points in the lower to middle 70s, it's going to be feeling close to 105 on Saturday and feeling like 106 for your Sunday with a couple of opportunities for some showers. But the main impact is going to be the heat, which is why we are weather alert. As you can see, these 3-day heat impacts as we head throughout the weekend, we could even be in that extreme category, especially around the Charlotte area. Do have some good news though. Our average high for this time of year is 90 degrees, and on average, this is when we start to drop into the upper 80s by the time we get into August 9th. So something at least to look forward to as our average highs are going on the downhill trend. 7-day forecast. Enjoy today. Mix of sunshine and clouds. Highs close to 90 degrees, lower 90s, more comfortable, drier air for Wednesday before heat really starts to build into the weekend.
And that's a look at the full forecast. I'm looking at it's like a ladder. The forecast continues to climb. It's only going to get hotter outside.
Get hotter.
Oh man, it's just, yeah. I mean, look,
It is what it is.
It is what it is at this point. You know, I know you all at home are probably tired of me complaining about the heat, but I'm going to continue to complain about the heat because it's hot. But seriously, we want you guys to be safe. We want you guys to be hydrated, wear the sunscreen, wear the hats, wear the light color clothing, listen to your body.
Yeah.
And do all the things to protect yourself in this heat. As you saw there, it just goes up like a ladder. It's going to be, that's not even feels like temperatures. Those are the actual temperatures, 98, 99. So WCNC Charlotte's Miles Harris got a chance to speak with a doctor at Piedmont to talk about what you guys need to know as far as this heat. Some stuff that you need to know to protect yourself, to keep you safe while we continue to face this heat, and that's why we're weather alert the back half of the week. Let's take a listen into that full interview.
Obviously, today's adding on to the amount of heat that we have seen, not just in Charlotte, but really throughout the parts of North Carolina. Really talk to me about why it's so important for people to take conditions like this so serious.
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially from a cardiac standpoint, there's a variety of patients that we see in our office and in the hospital, right? So these can vary from patients who have congestive heart failure, they have coronary artery disease, they may also have arrhythmias or abnormal rhythms. So the heat can really precipitate all these conditions and worsen them. So with the heat, generally our natural body's response is to dilate your arteries. You're going to want to sweat. You're losing a lot of volume. So it's important to stay on top of that. Again, these conditions can affect, how you want to manage them. So it does have to be sort of individualized. But with those conditions, you do want to be careful in the heat, especially avoiding it when it is getting up into the 90s or, low 100s even that we've been seeing over the past few days.
And I think one of the challenging things, though, too, is that there's a lot of people. I used to teach tennis, so I know, but like you have to be out in these conditions, right?
Okay.
Like, yeah. And like, let's say you're a construction worker, you're on that rooftop, and it's obviously going to be a lot warmer, though, too. So what are some of the things to keep in mind in trying to keep, obviously, everything working and we're not, going into more serious states?
For sure. So definitely as much as you can, right? Trying to stay out of the sun. Again, like you said, if you are out working construction, going to be a little more difficult, right? But trying to work in more shaded conditions, trying to avoid like that high heat around noon, 1 o'clock, that, time period. The other part of it, also fluid hydration, right? So you definitely want to stay hydrated during these times. Again, specified to one of like our cardiac patients, you're going to want to be careful with that, especially with our patients who have congestive heart failure. Real delicate balance, right? So maintaining that fluid intake, but also not getting fluid overloaded, right? So definitely want to monitor your thirst and sort of drink to your thirst, right? So not kind of overdoing it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, what's the ballpark range that somebody should keep an eye out for when drinking in water in conditions like today? I mean, are we doubling? Are we tripling? I mean, what are we thinking about here?
So again, very individualized, right? A lot of times we'll kind of say, again, drink to your thirst, right? So if you are kind of feeling thirsty, that's your body's natural response to saying, hey, I need fluids, right? I need to drink. Generally, what's sort of setting an amount of fluids, again, we'll kind of do that with our congestive heart failure patients because we know once they're kind of intaking more than 1.5 liters, anything like that, can kind of put them into a volume overload. So you got to be real careful with that. The other thing you can sometimes do is monitor your weights. So monitoring your daily weights and kind of maintaining that fluid balance, know where you stand and are comfortable. So for example, if you weigh 170 pounds, hey, I'm comfortable at this weight, not fluid overloaded, I feel good. So kind of monitoring that day to day.
And then as far as what you have seen when it comes to this heat overload, whether it's people like dealing with the effects, has there been like a trend in what you have seen? Has it been people not being hydrated, not eating it, or is there anything, or is it just kind of a combination of a lot?
Yeah, so like a combination. So in general, yeah, we'll see, a spike in patients kind of coming in who might be dehydrated, who've been out in the sun. I've been a little fortunate with my office patients that they do listen. So haven't had too many of them coming in with those type of issues. Something we do discuss at the kickoff of summer. Hey, it's going to be hot. We're in the South. We already know it's going to hit those low 100s. So again, monitoring their fluid intake, monitoring their weights. And then the other thing is just monitoring their electrolytes, right? So when you are sweating, you're losing that potassium, you're losing the sodium, all those type of things. So kind of monitoring that. Those generally will kind of check in more extreme situations, right? I think at that point, once you're having to check labs and everything, they're probably in the hospital already with issues. So monitoring that
Doctor, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Only other thing I would say, right, if you do have these sort of chronic conditions, definitely check in with your healthcare provider, check in with your physician, your cardiologist, kind of get their input on how to maintain that fluid balance, electrolyte balance. I think that's going to be the best way to go.
Some great advice there by the doctor there at Piedmont on what you need to do to stay safe in this heat. So even if you've been living in the Carolinas all your life, there's always things you can learn and all those things that you should know, because we forget.
You forget. I mean, we talked about this last week a little bit. Chris mentioned that last year he had a little bit of heat exhaustion a day. Chris Mulcahy, who's a meteorologist, who, you know, I want to say knows better, but knows better. You know, he's got a small kid. It's easy to, you know, get the day run away from you, and you're, you know, busy. It's, you just got to take those, you know, water breaks. Try to, you know, make sure you track your water intake.
And it happens when you're rushing or when you're preoccupied. I mean, he's a father, so I'm not a father, but I understand how things can kind of get away from you.
All of a sudden, the time goes away from you. You're like, I'm thirsty.
You get a little dizzy, so we want you to be safe, and that's why we're always preaching. We're always going to continue until it gets a little cooler outside.
Yep. Watch out for your pets, too.
Watch out for the pets, They
always say if your dog is usually pants in the heat and all of a sudden it stops panting, that's a bad sign. Usually that's that's not a good sign.
I just thought about this. My parents' dog injured herself at doggy daycare because the pavement was too
hot.
So it just shows you it's the exhaustion, the heat exhaustion for your pets, but also the paws.
Hot ground. Hot ground. Chris says put the back of your hand on the ground 7 seconds. If it's too hot for you, it's too hot for them.
Definitely too hot.
That's why I have doggy Crocs for turkey.
Those are so cute, by the way, the doggy Crocs. But you got to protect yourself and your pets, your extended family. I call them the extended family.
Right.
All right, so let's switch gears now. We want to go to Washington, D.C., where a conversation is underway. A fireside chat is happening right now. So right there on your screen, that is Sam Altman. He is OpenAI's CEO. He's speaking with Vice Chair for Supervision, Michelle Bowman. So what's happening there is they are at the Integrated Review of the Capital Framework for Large Banks Conference that's happening in D.C. Earlier this morning, Fed Chair Jerome Powell delivered the opening remarks. So again, this is a fire chat happening, and that it's Sam Altman there on your screen, OpenAI's CEO. Let's take a listen to what they're talking about right now.
The risk is that we don't continue to exist as a business. We know we cannot compete if we're a bank, we know we cannot compete with a new bank that is really going to build an AI-first experience and use AI for the entire stack of things. So it was one of the most innovative industries, and the adoption and rollout has worked better than I thought. There clearly are risks to mitigate. We talked about hallucinations. A new one on the horizon is what's sort of called prompt injections. The idea that once a model really becomes personalized to you and your data, someone else can kind of trick it to tell it something it shouldn't. I may know a lot of private information about you, but I understand when I can share that with him and when I can share that with her, and that I should never share it with him. And the models, that's a new thing that's happening, is the models get all of this personal information in them. So there's some work to do there, but we've been able to kind of go through these risks carefully and manage them, but really deliver a lot of the upside.
Speaking of personal information and those kinds of things, I might just pull a thread on that and not know much about this, but this is something that the banking industry is really interested in right now is fraud and the impersonating individuals to facilitate fraud. Are there ways that we could mitigate that kind of activity, or that we should safeguard if there is the use of AI or identification of that type of impersonation?
Great question. I am very nervous about this. A thing that terrifies me is apparently there are still some financial institutions that will accept a voice print as authentication for you to move a lot of money or do something else. You say a challenge phrase and they just do it. That is a crazy thing to still be doing. AI has fully defeated that. AI has fully defeated most of the ways that people authenticate currently, other than passwords, but all of these fancy, take a selfie and wave or do your voice or whatever. I am very nervous that we have an impending, a significant impending fraud crisis because of this. We have tried, I think other people in our industry have tried to sort of warn people like, hey, just because we're not releasing the technology doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Some bad actor is going to release it. This is not a super difficult thing to do. This is coming very, very soon. And, you know, there's obviously some reports now of these sort of like ransom attacks where people have the voice of your kid or your parent and they make this urgent call. That is going to get so compelling. Society has to deal with this problem more generally, but people are going to have to change the way they interact. They're going to have to change the way they verify, like this person calling me. Right now it's a voice call, soon it's going to be a video FaceTime. It'll be indistinguishable from reality. And teaching people how to authenticate in a world like that, how to think about, you know, the fraud impacts, this is a huge deal.
That might be something we could think about partnering on, the identification of those hallucinations or the intentional impersonations. I think would be a really beneficial thing to engage in. But the parent, being the parent of two teenagers, one just graduated from high school and the other's a sophomore in high school. Apparently, a lot of these kids these days are using ChatGPT and other AI to facilitate their work and to complete high school. Do you have thoughts about that and how AI can be used in a beneficial way instead of in this way for kids and with teaching?
Let me tell two stories and then I will answer that. I never met my grandfather. He died before I was born. But a story that was told to me by my grandmother was about what happened. He was very good at math. What happened when the calculator came out. And he thought, he always kind of liked new technology. When the calculator came out, math teachers at the time apparently said, this is a disaster. This is the end of math education. If you don't have to learn how to use a slide rule or look up, stuff in the logarithms books or whatever they did at the time, why bother teach anyone math? Like this is, these kids are never going to learn. And it was apparently a real meltdown. And of course, what happened is with better tools, we use our brain power for something else. We start teaching calculus in high school. We start, exposing people to more advanced math. My own version of the story was when I was in junior high and Google came out, and the teachers at the high school, I heard this from the older kids, were really panicked. Because if there was this crazy new thing called Google, you didn't have to memorize facts. You didn't have to memorize the year that a certain war was fought. You could just look it up and what was the point of history class? And if you didn't have to fire up your car and drive to the library and learn to use the card catalog and then walk down and try to find this book, but someone had checked it out and then try to find some other book. You didn't have to suffer that hour. Then what was the point of learning? And I had gone to the library and used the card catalog as a little kid a little bit. And I was like, no, that's a really bad experience. I could do something better with that hour of my life. And again, what happened, so there was this brief effort at my school to ban Google and get these pledges not to use it and whatever. And then people realized oh man, we can give our students more tools and we can expect more out of them. And sure, maybe they drive to the library a little bit less, but they can use that time to think harder or come up with new ideas or do whatever. And that was really great. We expect more, we get more, the potential is higher, but the expectations are much, much higher. And I think it's the same thing now with ChatGPT. It is totally true. Back to that November 30th date, when ChatGPT first came out, kind of the first mega passionate early adopters were for sure students using it to cheat on their finals or papers or whatever that December. And you had these school districts falling all over themselves to see who could ban ChatGPT the fastest. So we launched November 30th. By December 7th, some people have banned it. By December 14th, it's really careening off the cliff. Schools leave for the break, and it looks like ChatGPT is never going to be allowed inside of any educational institution again. It's a 2-week-old product. It's done. By the middle of January, you start seeing these things from principals, from superintendents, from serious high-up people in the world of education saying, actually, we made a huge mistake. This is the best learning tool ever. Our students, at least our sort of self-starting students, are using this to like go learn anything. If we ban this from our schools, we're just not going to be globally competitive. And we've got to retool our curriculum because this is like the calculator. And now we have a calculator for words. So sure, maybe a take-home essay is no longer the right way to evaluate a student, but that process of learning to write an essay, that process of thinking better, because you're like, I still write things that I never show anybody else just to organize my thoughts. That's really important. So we said, great. Now, the good news is students for sure have learned how to use this to learn better, to teach themselves to think things, to think in new ways. We're going to roll out a new way to help students like learn better with ChatGPT very soon. The bad news is, on the whole, in those 2.5 years since, the curriculums have not moved as much as we might have hoped. People seem to have a lot of energy that they were going to have to start educating and evaluating in new ways. And then kind of the molasses of the education system did its thing. And we're still giving a lot of take-home essays. And I think that's a losing battle. We should be teaching people to use, give them assignments that require them to use tools like ChatGPT. Cannot be done without it, that's fine, but expect much more out of them. And I still hope we're going to get there.
Sounds like a transformation of our education system.
But it has to be. These kids are going to grow up and be adults with unbelievably powerful AI, and if we're not training them for that world, we've really missed the mark.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I'll make sure my daughter understands what our expectations are as she's finishing high school. But to move back to some things that you've talked about in the past, and to move a little bit back to the business community, you've said that AI will make small businesses, or it's going to create an environment for entrepreneurs that's going to be second to none. A new era, I think, is what you called it. How do you see small businesses? That's something that a number of our board members are really engaged in, and really we care about making sure that there's new business formation and that there's opportunity there for new entrants in that. How do you see that being transformed, and not just for the Silicon Valley small businesses or new entrepreneurs there, but more broadly?
So, the first thing we saw with ChatGPT, as I mentioned, was students. One of the coolest things we saw pretty quickly after was everybody who worked at OpenAI started to get these stories of how people were using ChatGPT when it was still very novel in their business life. And everybody has their favorite, but I'll tell you my favorite. I was in an Uber, and the Uber driver was telling me about this amazing new thing called ChatGPT and asking if I'd heard of it. And I was like, oh yeah, what are you doing with it? And he was like, it's the craziest thing. I have this small business. It wasn't quite working, but now I have an employee in every area. It does contracts for me. It answers my customer support emails. It helps me come up with my marketing stuff. It designs my thing. He goes down this list. And he basically had this business running on ChatGPT. This was before it was a common thing. This was before GPT. This was an extremely early adopter. But he had figured out how to run a business on ChatGPT. And it was not like he was taking jobs from other people. His business just would have failed. He couldn't pay for the lawyers. He couldn't pay for the customer support people. He didn't know how to get someone to design the advertisements for him. He didn't know how to have a system that could automatically bid for ads on the internet for him. And ChatGPT just did all of this. Now, obviously, it's much better now. Now we have a whole industry around us that builds tools with our API to make people really, truly one-click automate all those things I just talked about. But the creative spirit of people that were just doing this inside of ChatGPT, way back in the Stone Age, really stuck with me. And now it feels like it's on easy mode, and people are doing that in all sorts of amazing ways.
It's really transformational, I think, for me. The first time I used it, I was trying to write a haiku for a Kumpai toast at an innovation conference, which actually didn't go very well. But but at the urging of my family, of my teenagers and my husband, who's involved in AI too, we tried to make it work, and then went back to the drawing board.
The new version should be much better haikus.
Okay, great.
It's very good at creative writing.
Think about that. But I wanted to make sure we have some time for audience questions, if you're up for that. I see Anil in the front row. If Anil Cash up with the Chicago booth.
Hi. So I assume one of the things that financial institutions will begin doing is using this to mine their data, maybe to do credit scoring, credit evaluation. What do you say to the people that are worried that it's going to be picking up patterns and making decisions on things we wouldn't want to? And how are you guys thinking about protecting against that?
So this is deeply outside my area of expertise, so I'll answer in the general case. One of the things that is cool about these models is they understand us in natural language, and they're so steerable. So if you say, hey, you can go look at all this data to make a decision, but don't consider X, Y, or Z at all, like don't let that have any factor, it generally speaking will really be good at following that. The doing this in language models is different from the way that we used to do this sort of like just group all this data together into these clusters, and so you can really instruct, and it will really follow your intent. The second thing is, I think the question behind the question there is that these models are going to be very biased in ways we don't like. I think humans are quite biased. I think AIs are dispassionate and unemotional and don't have the kind of like built up, whatever that people do. And I think it'll be possible for AI correctly built to be a significant debiasing force in many industries. And I think that's not what many people thought, including myself, with the way we used to do AI, but on the current trajectory, that seems very possible.
Hi, Sam. Stephen Scott with a company called Starling. I recently had the opportunity to interview Craig Mundy, who wrote a book with Henry Kissinger and Eric Schmidt, where they describe AI as almost the evolution of a new species. And Craig was saying that we can teach AI human moral codes, they can learn it and reflect it. So there's a lot of talk about the ethics of AI. My question for you is, will AI evolve its own morality?
I think people get very confused about whether they want AI to be a tool or a creature. And I'm very much in the tool camp. I don't think AI will have independent morality. I think that AI can certainly learn, really study humanity and the best of our thinking. It can probably help us point out, here's a problem in your thinking, here's a thing that should be different, here is like a real moral gap. And I don't know what the giant moral gaps are in our current worldview, but I guarantee you there are some. And if it can help us find those a little bit faster, I think that would be, if it could point out those inconsistencies, I think that would be helpful. But I think it is easy to sort of impute creature-ness on AI that is not there.
Thanks. I read recently, it's weird to use the phrase traditional internet, but there are some people who say that AI will sort of destroy or really reshape the traditional internet, whether it's search, whether it's lots of other things. And obviously there's a huge economy now that we built on that. What's your sense of the amount of change that's going to happen in that world, where AI will be most disruptive and where things will be more status quo?
I do think there are all of these things. So I think AI will be somewhat disruptive to the way people currently use technology. The reason I was smiling is there's this funny thing that happens. Older people, or people who are used to like emailing with a certain kind of etiquette, will type out the bullet points that they want to communicate, put it into ChatGPT. ChatGPT will write this long, nice, formal email with a bunch of like fluff and the bullet points somewhere in there. They'll send it across to somebody else. That person will put it back into ChatGPT and say, please summarize this for me. And on the whole, the high school students think this is ridiculous and just say, just send the bullet points. Like that kind of like formal email thing is dead. Just like, you're generating on one side, you're collapsing it back. This is ridiculous. and it's funny, but I think there's something about the way we use the whole internet that is encapsulated there. Like when I wake up in the morning, I go through a bunch of apps. I read messages across 5 or 6 different things. I go check, a thing here, a thing there, a thing there. And what I really would like, and then my phone all day long is just like blowing up at me, and it feels like I'm like walking down the Las Vegas Strip and these things flashing at me, and it's very distracting. People like shoving things in my face. And what I would like is my AI agent to be off using the internet for me, knowing when to interrupt me. It can tell when I'm, focused working. It can tell when I'm in a meeting. It can tell when I'm like got some time to think. It can override if necessary. Otherwise, it can like nicely summarize stuff, respond to things for me, pull the things together. And, I want like that bullet point condensed thing. And I don't want the fluff. And I don't have to like go around and click around, and I don't have to, respond to stuff I don't respond to. But that change is probably fairly disruptive to the way that the internet works now. And I think there'll have to be new business models that go along with that. Like, I'll have to have new ways of paying for content. I have always wanted micropayments for content on the internet. I hope that finally happens. Maybe there'll be like new ways that we actually reduce, spam and message overload with new kinds of protocols. But it does seem like we're heading towards.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. The time now is 1:03. So right there on your screen, that's Sam Altman. He is the CEO of OpenAI. He is speaking. This is like a fireside chat situation that's happening right now at this large banks conference. It's been happening for a while, so we wanted to dip in. Carlene and I were talking about earlier, AI, it's not only a part of the world, but part of our jobs now. We were talking about how I use AI in different capacities at my job. So this is very fascinating to hear from somebody from OpenAI and one of these large tech companies talk about artificial intelligence. So that is happening there in DC. If it's still happening, when we come back, we'll make sure to dip back into this conference and this fireside chat. All right, so we want to bring it back out now. Let's talk about something that's interesting. For me, this is kind of a follow-up story, but for you at home, if you or wherever you're at, and you're watching this, this may be new. So I guess a good title for this would be a new era of tech repair in Charlotte. So recently, City Startup Labs celebrated the grand opening of Reconnects. It's a new venture focused on bridging the digital divide through community-powered tech repair. And now you may be asking, where is this store? So you can find it. It's located in North Point Plaza. That's 5430 North Tryon Street here in Charlotte, left of Family Dollar. And this is just a really, really cool initiative that's happening. I want to bring in 2 gentlemen. One I've already met. Months ago, we were sort of reminiscing about our last story. That's Henry Rock. He is the, up top, if you're looking on the screen, up top, that's Henry Rock, founder and executive director of City Startup Labs, also the co-owner of Reconnects. Below him, that is Ellsworth Usher Jr., co-owner of Reconnects and graduate of REAP, which is a part of City Startup Labs. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate your time. I can't believe it's been 6 months, Henry, since our story. I met you. Where did we meet again? Was it Central Piedmont?
Well, when we first
when we first met. Yeah.
That's where our
on a cold day.
Yeah, it was. Right.
Much different day today.
Indeed, like 180 degrees.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully not 180 degrees outside, but yeah.
Let's talk. Before we get to Reconnects, can I start with you? So,
sure.
City Startup Labs. So we did the story. And the great thing about this platform is, so you probably saw the story. You can check it out now on our website. And we only really got to get a little bit into your story, with 10-second sound bites, 15-second sound bites. Can you give us a little bit of background of where you come from, and also how did you start City Startup Labs?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll try to shrink this down in a fairly digestible time frame. But, I come from the New Jersey, New York area, moved down here from Harlem. New York, and had this idea of City Startup Labs. So in the mid-aughts, around 2008 or so, I had this notion of how do we get young black men in particular. Actually, at that time, it was really former gang members and formerly incarcerated folks into the game of entrepreneurship, and wanted to do a entrepreneurs boot camp. I'm probably going back a little further because at the time, Cory Booker was becoming mayor of Newark, New Jersey. So I presented this to his incoming administration, said, hey, listen, I think this would be a great idea for Newark, and especially, given the issues that they were having with, gangs and such. And I said, what about this idea? They thought it was a great idea, but they had a lot on their plate, so they couldn't entertain it. So fast forward a few years, Michael Bloomberg, who was then mayor of New York, had something called the Young Men's Initiative that he was doing with George Soros. So I dusted off this idea and said, hey, listen, why don't we turn this into an academy? Knew the co-chair of this initiative that the two had called the Young Men's Initiative, which was focused on young men of color around the areas of education, criminal justice, and employment. And the co-chair introduced me to the folks that were spearheading this, and I said, hey, here it is, great idea, what do you think? They said, great idea. However, it's outside of our bailiwick, so, another, ding. And so, I kept plodding away, National Urban League, speaking with them about how could we pilot this thing in Charlotte, knowing that I was moving down to Charlotte, and ultimately sort of expand this to other affiliates that they had around the country. And what we were able to do, in fact, was to land this with the local Urban League chapter. And Patrick Graham was the CEO at the time, and he saw the value and the efficacy of the idea. And so we piloted this with the National Urban League, or I'm sorry, the local Urban League, and we were, solely focused on working with young black men at the time. And a couple of years later, we moved to UNCC's campus, and with that, we ultimately ended up expanding to actually we went co-ed, right? Women were having their faces pressed up against the glass, saying, you guys are having too much fun in there, what about us? So we went co-ed. And, of course, the women came in with as gangbusters, and we really had a lot of success with them. However, it was also, in and around all of this, was this, this sort of bomb that was dropped on the city by Raj Chetty. And his Chetty's study had identified Charlotte as being 50th, as we all know, 50th amongst the top 50 markets in terms of socioeconomic mobility. Of course, as often is done, a task force was created to understand what was going on, and then out of that came Leading on Opportunity. They issued a report, a series of recommendations, and we noted that returning citizens, or those who are justice impacted, formerly incarcerated folks, as well as entrepreneurship, was really kind of given short shrift. And so I felt that it was important for us to really kind of lean in to these particular aspects, or I should say misses, in my estimation, in that report. And also around the same time, when I started here in Charlotte, there were maybe just a handful of what we call entrepreneurial support organizations, and only one really that was focused on, dealing with the population that we were. And then, a few years later, as we used to say back in the day, lottie-dottie and everybody came out with a entrepreneurship program, right? So you couldn't walk out of the door without stumbling over entrepreneur, this, that, and the other. So we had to really kind of rethink what our value proposition was going to be, and where we felt that we could, essentially have the most impact. And so those things, taken together, were part of the reason why we decided to focus on this justice impacted population. And really, in some cases, it was like kind of coming full circle, right? So we started our reentry entrepreneurship program 2018-19 as a pilot. We learned a lot from that. And then, of course, 2020, COVID hit. And we had to shift gears or pivot a bit to workplace development. And so we, at the time, with the help of the city and also the United Way, we designed, developed, and ultimately deployed a digital navigators program. Because part of my thinking at that time, and still to this day, is that we needed to really get our participants engaged in, I'll call it 21st century workforce development, right? They need to have the skills that are, that they can take, throughout their career, and not just the kinds of typical jobs that formerly incarcerated folks get, if they get any job for that matter, which is, labor intensive and that sort of thing, right? So we trained this new cohort of reapers, as we call them, because Reentry Entrepreneurship Program is called REAP as well. And we took them through a Google IT Pro support certification, and then trained them how to become digital navigators. And we worked with the city of Charlotte, with the library, and we were involved in the distribution of several thousand computers during COVID.
Wow.
During COVID, also happened to exacerbate the digital divide, right? It became really kind of front and center during that period. But also at the same time, we were working with the Access Charlotte program. So we sourced and placed several folks that were helping open broadband stand up public Wi-Fi all around Charlotte. And then it was also at that time, or shortly thereafter, that we ultimately decided to sort of hand the baton to the Center for Digital Equity. It was called Digital Charlotte then, as they were standing up a digital navigators program. So we got them sort of off and running with that, and they've since taken that over. Now we're here talking about Reconnects, which is another one of several initiatives that we have going with City Startup Labs.
I think you teased it during our last story about 6 months ago about Reconnects and what you guys were hoping to do there. It is open. I just pointed that again, if you're just listening, the location, North Point Plaza, North Tryon Street in Charlotte. Just left a Family Dollar if you're in that shopping center. How did you guys land on the name, the partnership?
Right.
How did that come about?
Right. So in and around this time that I was talking about, where we were, sort of shifting to more of a tech-oriented or tech-centric kind of training and skills development, I was. I had this notion of, well, how could we help folks that are returning home and give them both a device and access, right? Because typically what happens is that when folks come back home, one of the first things they need is to, start communicating. And, as we know today, it's cell phones. So we were thinking really in terms of providing that sort of point of entry resource, and also help to take alleviate a pain point that many friends and family have, because they're, when you come home, you're going to be on their plan, and they're paying for the device, et cetera, and so we were thinking along those lines, and then sort of secondarily thinking about device repair and digital fluency training, right? Getting folks, of course, coming home, many cases coming home after decades in prison, getting them conversant in digital literacy, right? So that was the original idea, and the word Reconnects is actually a contraction of two words, reentry connections, right? And so rather than, we made some inroads in sort of that first phase that I was mentioning to you, but decided really to kind of hone in on the device repair piece because we felt, again, having been involved with distribution of computers and the like, and the Center for Digital Equity as well as E2D, they were, distributing tens of thousands of computers during the COVID stretch. And so we knew that at some point or another, not only with those devices, but, just everyday wear and tear on your phone, that is a thing. And we also were thinking about, how could we position ourselves so that we're not part of this e-waste stream, but rather a resource for that, or to mitigate that. And so that was, also part of the thinking here. And we shifted gears as entrepreneurs do. We're, as City Startup Labs, entrepreneurial as an organization, and we're always iterating and innovating and all that. So we just shifted gears and said, hey, listen, let's move towards the device repair piece, and that's what we're focused on now, right at the moment.
Ellsworth, I want to bring you in. I promise I'm not forgetting about you, Ellsworth. So correct me if I'm wrong. Folks who are Justice Impact, they work in the store, run the store. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, work in, co-own. We are a collective. We work together. They're a part of the process. They're allowed to basically pass judgment across the board, right? We all decide together what's kind of happening from a day to day. Yes, obviously we lean on Henry and CSL for a lot of top level things. I typically go through some different operational pieces throughout the day. We have another individual that manages the store, one that assists her, and we also have a lead tech that's involved.
And we were talking about this earlier in the lobby. Nobody should have to choose between their groceries and making sure their phone, their tablet, or their device is fixed. Yeah. It's essential at this point. Having this is important. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's your lifeline to the world, right? It's a super important thing. When Henry presented this to me as like, hey, I'd love your help to kind of stand this thing up. I was absolutely for it, as I view him as a mentor, and all of I'm sure you've had your experience with him already. Okay, cool. I want to watch this guy, and that just gave me a solid front row to be able to pick his brain and go through the process. But as they presented this to me, and we did the research, as we've learned through that REAP program to understand what's going on with the other businesses and the industry that we want to deal with, I realized that the cost point for somebody to fix their phone is north of $150 to $180 for just a simple screen repair in most cases.
Wow.
And that's pretty much average across the board. So if somebody has to make the decision between fixing their phone so it can work, so they can go to work, or they can drop their kids off, or whatever it is that might be, versus we know grocery prices are what it is now, that makes a very hard decision for most people. So I was then tasked with trying to figure out how can we get that price reduced, still operate as a business, because I think a lot of times people confuse, especially us, what we're doing at Reconnects as like some sort of nonprofit. We are for profit. We want to make sure that we're in the community and serve the community well, but we obviously have to make money so that we stay open, that we pay our people equitably, and that everybody is a part of the process, and we're able to provide high-level service. So I had to kind of be tasked with figuring out how to make sure that we can keep a price point that feels good for everyone, that allows us to stay in business.
Can you talk about how were you able to get connected with Henry? I know you you said he's a mentor, but and we talked about it a little bit in the lobby. It's sort of your background, but can you talk about your background, where you're from?
Absolutely. I was born in New York, Brooklyn Hospital. I ended up moving to California when I was, 12 or something like that. Was there for quite a while. My family, I'm first generation American. My family, the whole family's from Belize. So we ended up moving to Charlotte because, as we all know, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, all that. My dad was a pretty big project manager, worked at Merrill Lynch and Countrywide. They ended up recruiting him. We came here. I was a bit shocked moving to the South obviously from those larger cities. I'm thinking, as the plane was landing, we were landing in a cornfield. But, it turned out we had some skyline. I was like, oh, okay, there's something here. But yeah, I was here and actually went to college in Elizabeth City, then ended up going also to Atlanta and was in the circuit of Atlanta, New York, and Charlotte for quite some time. Ended up finding out about City Startup Labs as I was actually coming back to Charlotte from living in Brooklyn again for a short bit. And I ended up finding a program. I wanted to connect with like-minded individuals. That's what I was after. Was I want to be around people that speak like me, look like me, but also think like me. And there was a lot of separation there, I think, that happens when you talk about the community and black folks and justice impacted folks that's also trying to do creative and big things. So I ended up finding City Startup Labs. Loved the process, loved the team, and was just enamored with how can I help? How can I be involved? And, as we went through that, I gave pretty much everything I could to all my folks around me because I wanted everybody to win. And I think out of that, Henry saw that and said, hey, I think you'll be an asset here. So that's how I ended up being involved in Reconnect.
And also there's a connection too, because you are friends with one of our first alum.
I am.
Victor. And Victor spoke highly of you as well. So so there's this CSL family has grown over the years. We've been at it since 2014. So we've got a number of folks that have come under the bridge.
Henry, you know everybody, because I feel like I've been at a couple events since our last. I'm like, but you've been in the distance, and I kind of had to get in and out. But I'm like, Henry knows everybody.
Not quite. But yeah. I think it's important really with the work that I do to make sure that the folk that work with us have agency. And, I'm not about micromanaging, although there are times when I want to. And that certainly can I guess ruffle some feathers, but I think hey, listen, I'm of a certain age, and I've seen some things, right? So, but I think it's really important to provide autonomy and give folks the opportunity to just kind of run with the opportunity that we've given them, and so that's really kind of what's happening with Reconnects. What's also important about this, so we've said this word co-ownership a bit, right?
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I think is really important about this particular business as a social venture is that it is not only co-owned and operated by folks, but it's a workers' co-op, right? And workers' co-op it's not a new concept here in the country, but it's it's beginning to gain more traction. And I felt that in this case it was particularly important because when we talk again about socioeconomic mobility and kind of overlay that with entrepreneurship, the typical entrepreneurial model doesn't really serve trying to address socioeconomic mobility head on, right? Because you have this hierarchy usually, right? You've got the owner or co-owners at the top of the pyramid, and then you got the worker bees, and they're lucky if they can get stock options or some equity in the company. And so what the worker co-op does is that it provides a much more sort of egalitarian and the distribution of wealth, and also wealth and equity and governance, and that really comes out of a long tradition that was established. At least my introduction to it was established by Maulana Karenga, who was the founder of the cultural nationalist movement in this country. And those of you who are familiar with Kwanzaa, there are two principles that sort of undergird our work, and one of those principles is what's called Ujamaa, or cooperative economics, and the other is Ujima, collective work and responsibility. So, it was really important to kind of have this be foundational and kind of undergird this work, this social venture undertaking.
And when I hear co-op, I think, first time I heard it was when it comes to like grocery stores and communities, right? Giving the community a slice of the pie.
Right.
And I have to mention this too. The store, Reconnects, is in the corridors of opportunity.
Yeah. So we were intentional about having this be, and subsequently the other locations that we have on tap, to center this in the city's corridors. These happen to be, they're pretty much in sync and in tandem with those areas that were called out in the Chetty study.
Yeah.
Right. And so the corridors themselves are, the sort of central business districts of these areas, and needless to say, when it comes to device repair, when it comes to devices and getting, cellular service and all that kind of stuff, there's a proliferation of those kinds of stores in these communities, right? I don't know how, whether or not there's some sort of exploitative thing going on there, but I do know that they proliferate, right? I mean, you'll even find a Boost next to a Mint next to, they're like right next to each other, right? So you wonder about that, but conversely, there's no device repair business in these corridors, right? So there's a, when going back to the digital divide, you can be connected and, bridge that divide, but when your device breaks, then you're back on the other side of the gap, right?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to really kind of lean into this and do it in a way that was really thoughtful and, as we said, kind of community-centered.
Well, if you're listening to this right now, I will. I want you guys to check out this store. Again, this is Reconnects. It's on North Point Plaza. That's North Tryon Street, 5430 North Tryon Street here in Charlotte. Again, I mentioned left of Family Dollar, just to kind of give you a visual. Thank you guys for your time. This, again, Henry Rock, founder and executive director of City Startup Labs, also co-owner of Reconnects. Ellsworth Usher Jr., co-owner of Reconnects and a graduate of REAP. Guys, thank y'all for your time, man. It was a pleasure. We're glad to have you back.
Yo, indeed.
Indeed. I know I'll see Henry around somewhere because he's just around. Thank you guys again for your time. And you can catch this interview shortly. It'll be up on our YouTube page and also on our website. Carlene, do we want to get a check on the forecast real quick? Yeah, let's get a check on the forecast. You guys stick around. We're going to chat for a little bit. Again, it's been hot outside. You guys are about to go back out in the heat, so stay safe. Let's check in with the forecast with Becca Birdsall.
Good Monday afternoon. We are weather alert for dangerous heat that is expected to build throughout the afternoon with active heat advisories in place from now all the way through about 8 o'clock. Now that does include the Charlotte Metro southward, and heat advisories, well, that means heat index value is expected to creep up to 103. So above 103, that's typically the danger zone. So from 1 o'clock all the way through about 6, avoid any strenuous activity, especially outdoors. Stay cool, take frequent breaks from the sun and the shade, and of course keep up to date with the forecast all day on WCNC Plus. Actual high temperatures for today will be climbing into the middle to upper 90s across much of the greater Charlotte area. Again, with those peak heat index values reaching closer to around 105 here in the area. There will be a chance for a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially from 4 p.m. on. A couple of locally heavy downpours could produce 1 to even over 2 inches of rainfall, so localized flooding, frequent lightning, and strong gusty winds. That's what we're going to be watching for later on this. Also help to cool us down as well. Any outdoor activities, especially heading this afternoon and evening, make sure to download that WCNC app so you can track those showers and storms in real time. This is all going to be pushed alongside a cold front, so you'll notice today's heat impacts, well, we're in that major zone. But by the time we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, behind that cold front, minor heat impacts from the mountains into the metro as temperatures start to fall a little bit closer back to average. We've already hit the 90s for today. That actually marks day number 15 where we've had consecutive high temperatures 90 degrees and above. In fact, 9 of these days actually featured highs 95 and above. So it should come as no surprise. We are actually in the top 3 hottest Julys on record with an average temperature of 83.9. Of course, we still got 1 week left of July to go, but I won't imagine that we won't be in the top 5 for that. Weather impacts, weather alert today for the heat. We will carry those storm chances scattered today and tomorrow, and cooling down close to average by the time we get into midweek. Here's that setup. We've got that cold front moving in tonight, bringing us that round of showers and thunderstorms. That low pressure system will develop as the system continues to push down to the south. On Tuesday, that's what's going to bring the cloud cover across the greater Charlotte area, as well as a couple of lingering showers. Futurecast timing this out for you. This is 4 o'clock. A little bit more active north of the metro, including the high country and also in the northern Piedmont. Then by the time we get into 5 to about 8 o'clock, a little bit more active and with scattered thunderstorms across the greater Charlotte area. Though drying off late Monday night into early Tuesday, again with those lingering rain chances into Tuesday. How much rainfall we're expecting going to be dependent on where the heaviest downpour set up. So don't necessarily focus on location, focus on how much these rain bands could produce. 1 of rainfall, again, that is where the heaviest set up of us even see low rainfall impact across the area. Dew points, well, they stay today. Notice though, that's what we have, that drop. Drier air is expected. We'll have those dew points in the lower 60s. Much more for your 3-day forecast as we head throughout the work week. Tuesday is going to be a lot cooler. Upper 80s could very well beat that heat streak, depending on when those clouds clear out. Wednesday, the pick of the week, drier near temperatures. Enjoy that because Monday forecast only go up from here. We'll be back into the middle to upper 90s the work week into the weekend.
All right, so that is a look at the forecast. And before the forecast, we had a great interview with Henry and Ellsworth, talking about the work that they're doing to bridge the digital divide in Charlotte. Check them out now. That it's Reconnects. Again, we'll have that interview up shortly on YouTube and on WCNC.com. All right, so let's shift gears now. So we are following up on this story. So a Newton police officer charged with second-degree murder after a deadly shooting during a pursuit appeared before a judge today. That officer, Carlos Uribe, is accused of killing a man after a traffic stop escalated last month. WCNC Charlotte's Jess Pierre is in Conover on U.S. Highway 70 near where the officers attempted to make the traffic stop. Jesse, I know you've been following this story again. What can you tell us?
Well, like you mentioned, Carlos Uribe faced a judge today. He was given a $100,000 bond on that second-degree murder charge. Now, again, the shooting happened not far away from here off of Highway 70, and this happened on June 26th. Now, Newton police say they tried to pull over 21-year-old Camden Childers, who was on a motorcycle for various traffic violations like speeding and so forth, but then there was a pursuit that happened. At some point, police say his motorcycle and a police car collided, and then at some point there was a brief struggle, and then there was an officer-involved shooting that occurred involving the Uribe firing a deadly shot. Childers did die after he was pronounced dead, and Uribe was placed on administrative leave following the incident, and he was charged with second-degree murder following the case, and again, he was in court today. Now, the district attorney said the shooting was not legally justified after reviewing body cam and interviewing several witnesses, and also reviewing dash cam in the case. So, you know, this is a case, you know, I've been trying to get in contact with family members and so forth. I've been seeing different tributes about Camden, saying, you know, more about the type of person he is. And we are working to see if we can speak to family members and friends more about who he was, and, you know, get more also comments on their reactions following this arrest. So we'll have that coming up at 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock later today on the newscast. Nick?
That's Jesse Pierre there in Conover. Jesse, again, as she mentioned, will be live at 4 and 5 with the latest on this story. Jesse, thank you for your time. All right, so we want to switch gears now to another story that we are following, another tragic story. So let me set the scene for you. So the Pageland community is continuing to mourn, reeling after a 17-year-old was killed in a shooting at the town's Watermelon Festival just last week. So again, this is a tough one for the community, as that 17-year-old was killed at this festival. So we recently heard from two family members, two aunts of that 17-year-old, about getting their reaction, but also speaking about what he meant to the family. Let's take a listen into what they had to say.
Oh, goodness. Sean was very fun and outgoing. He loved laughter. He loved fun. He loved family. He loved to motivate people. He loved the sports. He was in love with his dad and his mother. His dad was his backbone, you know. Everything about him has been positive. Our brother has been there for him since day one. When it came to sports, whether it was football, whether it was track. I know one time he tried basketball. He has a host of nieces and nephews, so, you know, he's been that family person to where he just has a heart for people. Every time you seen him, he was smiling. He was always uplifted, and that goes to show the parenting skills of my brother and of his wife.
I want to get your reaction to knowing this fundraiser is happening today. What's your response to just how the community has rallied around you and your family?
It's amazing. That just shows how much love Sean poured out, and he's receiving it back because he was an awesome kid. It's just words that can't express, you know, the thankfulness that everybody is pouring out to Sean and the family. So it's an awesome feeling to see this happen. I hate the circumstances, but it's amazing.
Were either of you there at the Watermelon Festival that day? Did you go just to
No, I talked to my employer about going, but then, you know, you hear so much about the Watermelon Festival, the negativity that it brings. So I personally didn't go for that reason, because you never know. And you could step outside your door, you have to be very cautious of where you go and who you surround yourselves with. And I've just always heard the Watermelon Festival was one of those get-togethers where you never know what was going to happen. The past couple of years, they've had issues at the Watermelon Festival, and it's like, I pray that it doesn't take what just happened to my nephew for it to change.
And you're referring to issues of safety?
Safety, definitely, you know, to the gun violence. You know, I know people are saying it was an honest mistake on the child. No, when you pick up a gun, you know what you're doing. You have to take accountability for what you're doing. I don't blame the parents at all, because if you're a parent, you can raise your child a certain kind of way, but once they walk out of that door, they make their own decisions. We can't constantly be on our kids and say, no, you need to do this, you need to do that, because even if we do that, they're still going to make the decision in their minds that this is what they're going to do. So we have to continue to be advocates for our kids, not just our kids, but everybody's kids. And that's how my brother was when it came to the kids at the community, the kids at a football team, the basketball team, the school. They've been there. You can ask the parents. They've given plenty of kids rides. They've spoken to plenty of kids, you know. So my brother, he's been that advocate. He's been there.
Did you recognize the name of the young man they arrested?
I did not. No, I did not.
How do you feel to know that they do have a suspect in custody?
I feel like something should have been done with that young man a long time ago, because if you look back on Facebook, if you scroll down on his name, it shows that he's ran off a couple times. He's had issues, and that goes along to show that we need more help mentally when it comes to our kids in this not just this community, but everywhere. Yeah. And that is so when our kids are reaching out to us, not just our kids, we have to take heed to that and make sure that their mental is taken care of. Their mental, their physical. It's not just about you taking your kids out to do this, and that. You have to be with them physically. You have to be with them mentally. And I'm not sure what happened with that young man. You know, I just feel like the help wasn't given. If the help was given, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
When did you both get the call? Because I know you weren't there. That this had happened.
My sister called.
Yeah, I received a call about 11 o'clock from a family member, and he was like, Auntie, he said, what is your brother boy's names? And I named them. Then when I got to the last one, he said, that's him. He said, I think something bad just happened. Mm-hmm. So I started calling my brother, could never get no answer. I called several times. Then I called my sister. I said, something is happening with Sean. I said, we need to go find out what's going on. We couldn't get no contact, so finally Keisha got in contact with someone, and then we all went to the hospital and everybody was there.
Where do you guys move now? How do you kind of move forward and just find a positive thing out of this?
I think the positive thing out of this is knowing who our Lord and Savior is, knowing the support of the community, and knowing that my nephew did everything possible that he could. Moving forward is definitely going to be hard. It's definitely going to be a void there when it comes to holidays. We just had a get together at my sister's a couple weeks ago, and as I'm pulling up in the car, Sean runs out of my car because he knows I like to bring food and I bring banana pudding, and he said, yo, Auntie, you need help? You need help? I'm like, yeah, sure, come on. But his focus was the banana pudding. He didn't care about anything else. So he was always willing to lend a helping hand. My son is getting ready to play football, and he told Joshua, he said, you know, he kept giving him pointers on what to do and examples on what to do. He was going to come and help Joshua, you know, practice with Joshua. And a couple pictures that I've posted of him mentoring other boys on the sidelines as they're, if they didn't get the right hit or get the right catch. My nephew's on the sideline condoling them, letting them know, hey, it's okay. Hey, just go back out there and give it your best and give it your all. That shows his upbringing. That shows who he is as a person. Mm-hmm. That shows my brother being a father, not just being there, but actually being a black father to his son, showing him how a man is supposed to be. And he was always that gentleman. I hate you guys didn't get to meet him in person, but I think the community support shows in itself who he is as a person.
Most definitely.
Was he going into his senior year?
Yeah, this is his senior year.
Did he express the school he wanted to go to? Or things
he wanted to go into the military.
Actor. If football didn't work out, he said the military. They just got back from camp. I think one of the places that he mentioned, I don't remember the name of the school, but I know it had a rock on it. I'll send you guys. I sent you a picture. I'll send you guys pictures as well. But just seeing him stand up there with his hands in his pockets and posing, you know, it showed his excitement. Like on his page, it shows where he's like, you know, this is it. This is my last year. I'm going to give it all. You know, he was ready.
And he played football at some
Yes.
for 3 years?
4 years. For 4 years. They've been playing. I sent you pictures as well. I sent her pictures of when they started out when they were little boys. You know, sports just don't start when you're in high school. Sports started with our dad, and then it went to my brother, and then my brother instilled it on his kids. Playing sports also keeps our kids out of trouble. If you give your kids an outlet, something to do, versus being out on the streets or somewhere, then that helps. You can't have your kids just laying around not doing anything. You got to get them out. You got to get them involved. And my brother, definitely, I keep saying my brother because he's been an amazing parent. And Sean wouldn't have been who he is today. And I say today because he still lives with us. He wouldn't be the person that he is today without his dad. I love his mother. He loves his mother. But then again, when you have fathers in the household, it totally makes a difference. We were brought up in a single family household, and my brother made it his priority to be there for his kids. And he made sure he was there for his kids every step of the way. Even the complaints from people like, oh my God, like you don't have to do that, you know, in reference to the kids. Yes, we do. That's the way of keeping our kids out of trouble. That's the way of being positive towards our kids, making sure we continue to push our kids to let them know that there's better out there.
He was number 5 on the football.
He's number 5.
To see that mural, it was completed with his number up there. You know, what does that mean to you?
It means the town will always be remembered for him. I pray they never take it down. I hope they retire his jersey because he wore the number 5 every year. So seeing someone else out on the field with number 5 just wouldn't sit right. So hopefully they will retire that jersey in the name of my nephew. And whatever we have to do to make sure that his jersey is retired, that's what we're going to do.
After this ends, what's your message to the community after this fundraiser ends? People all over Charlotte, they want to help your family. What can they do to help you?
Mental health.
Yeah, and just be there and let your kids know, no matter what they go through, they always have someone to talk to.
Absolutely.
Parents should be number one that their kids should be able to go talk to.
Absolutely.
And you know, just have mentors out there for kids. Even if they don't want to talk to the parents, have someone for them to talk to. Because even though it's our nephew that's gone, our heart still goes out to the family of the young man that done it. Because their family just lost their son as well. He may be still here, but you know, they still lost him because now he's going to be gone.
Yeah.
So, you know, just stepping together more as a community, helping getting guns off the street, just being there for these young people a little more than what we have been.
All right, so that is the interview there with the 2 aunts of that 17-year-old that was killed during that watermelon festival there in PageLink, and a tragic story there that we will continue to follow up on. All right, so we want to shift now to this. This is Oshkosh, Wisconsin. That is U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy right there on your screen. So he is there holding a press event with the FAA administrator at the Experimental Aircraft Association's Air Venture Show, and unveiling deregulatory actions that will, quote, unleash innovation within the light sports sector of aviation. Again, that is Sean Duffy, Secretary Duffy. Let's take a listen in.
Questions. I hope the media is going to have really nice questions for us today, like the weather. We'll see. And I know Chris is going to come up here with me as well. But first off, any questions?
Hey, Secretary Matt from WCNC in Milwaukee. I saw you up in the tower yesterday. I'm curious, with the funding, what is the $12 billion going to allow you to do, and what happens if you don't get the additional 19?
So the question is, we have $12.5 billion which, by the way, Sam Graves gave me all the money he possibly could to get us that $12.5 billion. So, number one, we're going to redo telecom, right? Radios, voice switches, let go from copper to fiber, build a brand new telecom network. We're going to replace our 1950s, 1960s, 1970s radar with that money. We have $2 billion for a brand new center. Where that's going to go, we don't know yet. There's potentially opportunity for consolidations of centers in the country. But if you're thinking about a brand new air traffic control system, it really is the common automation platform. It's the software on how this is going to work. We got a little bit of money, I think $300 million, if I'm not mistaken, to start that process. We're going to try to, I've asked Chris to pull up the FAA cushions in the couch and shake it to find more cash. But that is the part that's going to take us a little bit of time. It's going to take us, whether it's 7-8 months to ask industry to provide us with a product that will work for the American airspace. We have to debug it. So we're probably a year and a half out before that could be deployed. But that truly is the new system that we don't really have an off-the-shelf solution to deploy. And I'll just make one other note. It's been a problem because Congress has given sporadic funding, no doubt, but this is complicated to do. But again, if we can put a man on the moon with technology that's less powerful than your iPhone, we can absolutely update our air traffic control system, and we are going to make that happen. And if it doesn't happen, I can guarantee you, hopefully not on Twitter, but somewhere else, the president will fire me. So I'm going to make sure that happens for sure.
And quickly on training, we visited the site in Joliet recently where they're training folks to become air traffic controllers. Do you have any plan? Is there a concern that the training needs to expand? You need to open more sites, you need to get more people trained? On the back end, how do you solve that?
So we're talking about controllers. Oklahoma City is the heart of training our controllers. There's the opportunity to have more schools stand up and train more controllers. But we have the most controllers in the history of Oklahoma City at our training facility right now than ever in our past. We're going to hit our 2,000 controller threshold this year. We're hoping to get to don't lock me into this. I'm going to shoot for 2,500 next year. Maybe it's going to be 23, 24, but we're going to get more controllers in. I'll just tell you, it was more complicated than you would recognize to actually get rid of the bottlenecks, to get the best young people into the school first, and get them in fast. If it takes 2 years after you apply for the school and you can't get in, you're going to go find some other job. So we've streamlined that process. I've also offered controllers who are at the eligible age of retirement to stay on. Help us out. We're giving them a 20% upfront bonus per year for every year they stay. These are the most experienced controllers. We're in great need. We want to see them stay on with us, help us out during this time. So, and again, you saw, yes. And by the way, if you see the pink shirts around, thank them too. They're doing an awesome job here, and excited to be at Oshkosh. Again, they'll bid to come to this great event. So that's what we're doing. And again, none of these solutions happen overnight. I can't snap my fingers and fix them. The problems have taken decades to create. It's going to take us, months and some years to fix some of these. But if we don't start now, it never gets fixed. And so we are fully engaged to make sure that we revitalize and remake our complete system. So you want to talk more about Mosaic?
So today, the rule is live. You can go on the internet right now, and the rule is live. So we're very happy. Again, credit to the Secretary for setting a deadline and driving us, as the chairman talked about. We beat that requirement in the reauthorization. We're very proud of that. Now, over the next year, we're going to roll that out because it's, having read it twice, it's very long, it's very detailed, and it's going to mean different things for different operators. At the end of the day, though, we're talking about opening up the light sport aircraft category, making it safer based on the data we've already received. So we're very proud of that. And again, we've got some subject matter experts here later on. If you want to engage them, they're very proud of the fantastic work they've done, again, along with industry itself. So again, back to the question, we're going to roll this out over the next year. We're going to be working closely with stakeholders, with the industry, to make sure that we get this, as we roll it out, right, so that we can translate and make sure that the application itself is correct. So again, very proud of our opportunity here to work together to make this category of aircraft safer as we bring in more people to our aviation community.
Just so everybody understands, the most important part of this is it eliminates the weight rule. What it does is it bases it on stall speed, 61 knots, no more than 61 knots stall speed. So what that's going to include is your Cessna 172s, 150, your Cherokees, all the Piper Cherokees out there. It completely overhauls that, and we're going to base it on, that's the most important part of this. And also there's no seat requirement in there anymore. We've done away with all that. It's based on 61 knots stall speed. So that's what everybody wants to know.
Anybody else? Mr. Secretary, welcome to Oshkosh. Can you describe some of the other parameters that are going to be part of the new Mosaic rule? There have been a number of them that have been in contention from parts of the industry, above and beyond stall speed, which of course is critical to many, and good on you for that one. But we'd like to get some more parameters if we could. So we'll tee these guys up. Before we came out, Chris said, I'm taking all Mosaic questions with Sam Graves. I said, okay, that's fine. So.
Yeah, so I'll start that answer by saying we have the people that wrote that rule that will be helping you implement that rule right here, and you can get them afterwards. But the big things, as the chairman talks about, is taking that weight limit away, right, and allowing for additional safety technologies to be put in these aircraft to be sold in a safer manner and operated in a safer manner. The other thing I think that's significant that didn't come up is the requirements on noise. Right? So there was a lot of feedback that we got from the public on noise requirements, and we should leave them in there, we shouldn't, we should make them mandatory. And so what we ended up doing was made them voluntary, because again, what we're talking about here is the manufacturing of aircraft that are going to go around the world, right? We want our manufacturers to be able to sell, and so having that
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are approaching the top of the hour. We were watching a press conference, in all transparency, with Secretary Sean Duffy, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. He was at an aviation event there in Wisconsin, answering questions from reporters, but it looks like the feed has shifted. And that is a live look as we await for the State Department briefing, which is expected to be underway momentarily.
They usually say 2 o'clock.
Usually,
we know it's usually a little later than 2.
We give it about a 20-minute window. Yeah. But again, this is what we are keeping our eye on there, so that when that starts, we'll bring you there live. All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk about transportation. Make sure I pull up my notes, Carlene. It's been one of those, like when your first day back from vacation, you're just trying to get everything together.
Yeah.
That's how I feel right now. I'm just trying to keep everything
together.
Keep it together.
Then NBC switches the feed on you. We weren't ready for it. We said, oh no, now we're here.
I'm eating a snack on the side. So it's just that's one of those days. Happy Tuesday again. Thank you for staying with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, so let's talk about, as I mentioned, a road project, a pretty big road project that's going to have some impacts. So, 6-month road project through downtown Concord. And if you know anything about Concord, downtown Concord specifically, they've had construction down there, and we've done stories over the last couple of years about the impact that it's had on businesses there, and sort of what they're dealing with and the timeline of that project. So downtown Concord, as they are looking to transform and to change and all that, it is causing some impacts for folks that are business owners and folks that live there. Let's bring in WCNC Charlotte's Walker Lawson, who, Walker, you cover everything, construction, road project, transit related.
You know, the last day you and I worked together, we were talking about bridges. You and I have both been off since. Yeah. Now we're on roads. As we both
there we go. I mean, it's a perfect segue. So let's talk about it. So this is a 6-month project. This is a new project, right?
Yeah. So this is what they call an annual street preservation roadway project. So this is really them just repaving, making sure all the roads are drivable in the downtown area, but 17.3 miles. So it's a big project. I went out today. It started in the Union Street South area, which is very residential right now. There were a couple businesses that were located along the strip that first saw some of the construction last week. They've already been pretty much removed from the project now, so they're not seeing impacts anymore. But they did say they saw some delays. It was a little difficult for employees and for customers to get in and out of their shop. They did not go on camera with us today, but they did speak with me a little bit about some of that. But really, I got a resident who spoke at length about his concerns with a project of this. Of course, they have 6 months to complete it. They have a contractor working on it, so this is not the city of Concord doing the project itself, but it's a contractor. And he kind of alluded to what you had said. You know, there's some concerns because there was a previous project done in the last year that Jesse Pierre covered for us, discussing about some of the impacts that businesses faced. Some of them lost a lot of money because it was hard to navigate in and around. Now, the city of Concord wants to be clear this is very different, so they're trying to not have anyone be as concerned. But again, there are major roads and connectors in the next couple of weeks and or months that will be impacted by this because there are streets right around your main area in Concord that will see construction.
So maybe you have the answer to this, maybe you don't, but I have to ask, they say it's 6 months. What happens if it's 7 months, 8 months? Did they comment on that?
Yeah, so I've only talked to the communication person via text today, since they're seemingly in meetings, but her text says that the contractor has 6 months to complete the work, and that is for all of the work across the city that you will see on the online map. So shouldn't allude to anything longer than 6 months. But again, trying for them to separate the two projects, because I think when people hear road project, you're gonna hear lanes are closed, limited parking. It brings this red flag back up from years past. So I actually spoke to a business downtown that said they're not concerned. So you have a difference in opinion from people, which was nice to hear. Some people are concerned and some are not.
And that previous project, is that still going on? Do you know?
It is wrapped.
Oh, it's wrapped. Okay, so it's complete. But I feel like that was going on for forever.
Yeah, it was going on for a while. I went back and read Jesse's story and checked in on some other reporting. And downtown Concord is moving as business as usual now. But I definitely would say there were a couple of businesses that did not go on camera that were concerned in conversations I had with them that are just a little bit nervous and kind of want to wait and see till the project gets to them. Because right now it's really in a residential area. So,
it's understandable that, I mean, again, as you read, and you can go on our website now and see check out those stories from Jesse. That was a long project. A lot of folks still remember. I mean, it's still there.
The memory of it lives on.
Yeah, it lives on. Walker, when can folks catch your story?
Tonight at 5:30.
At 5:30, you can catch Walker. Walker, thank you for your time. Thank you for stopping by the studio.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Walker, everything transit and roads. All right, so let's turn now to Gastonia, the opposite direction of the metro area. That is Attorney General Jeff Jackson. He is there at the Dream Center Academy in Gastonia. He is talking about education funding cuts at the federal level, the impact there. We saw him earlier touring the facility, at Dream Center Academy that services a lot of kids within the area. So let's take a listen into what Attorney General Jeff Jackson is saying at the moment.
Possibilities for them as far as what they can do after high school, but one student said it best. He said, "This place has become like a second family to me." And that's not something 7th graders are inclined to say unless they really mean it. So what this place is doing is not just preparing students academically, it's giving them a place where they feel like they belong. And we've got some people here, some young people here, who might not have that otherwise. So for Gaston County to have made this investment in partnership with the federal government is an enormous thing. It's an enormous asset for the county, but also just these students. It was wonderful to be able to spend some time going into all these different classrooms. A lot of the teachers who are here have been here since the beginning, which is a testament to their belief and their faith in this organization and how effective it is. I was just out there with one of them teaching a bunch of young kids how to change a tire. That's not something they're going to teach you in school, but it's something you need to know. They are teaching self-defense classes, which is not only useful, but interesting for young people. They're teaching young men how to be better men. They're teaching art classes. This is what you get to see when you just stop by. This is a wonderful experience. I'm going to be followed by the chair of our State Board of Education, Eric Davis. Eric.
Thank you, Attorney General Jackson. My name is Eric Davis. I chair the State Board of Education, but one of the things I'm most proud of is that when my wife and I made our first home, it was right here in Gastonia in the York-Chester neighborhood. And we thoroughly enjoyed it, made lifelong friends, and it feels like coming home to be here with you today. On behalf of my colleagues on the State Board and the 1.5 million students that we serve every day, I'm delighted to stand with two public school champions, Attorney General Jackson and Chair Starnes, in celebrating this wonderful program, the Dream Center Academy. Last March, the State Board had the pleasure of celebrating the Dream Center Academy and the privilege of hearing from some of the student alumni, including Jarrell Breeden, Ja Phillips, Yashel Riviera Luna, and Mauro Mayo Castro, all of whom started attending the Dream Center Academy in middle school, and today are continuing their education at places like UNC Chapel Hill and NC State University. These students inspired us all by sharing the challenges they faced and how the Dream Center enabled them to overcome those challenges. And I'd like in particular to thank the Executive Director, Ms. Jemison, who devoted her professional career to Gaston County students and then made her own dream come true with helping to start this academy. Because this center and this program is just one of the many critical and impactful after-school programs that enable our students to get the education they so richly deserve. And when the Department of Education froze those funds on June 30th, it threatened the opportunity for students like the ones here at the Dream Center. And while I'm encouraged that the department has released 21st Century grant funds, there are still countless more students like the ones here at the Dream Center whose dreams remain frozen because of the $130 million that have not been released. Because what you see here at the Dream Center is but one example of the benefits of public education in North Carolina. We welcome every student just as they are, and we work every day to provide them the education to become contributing members of our society. In fact, every classroom and every school across our state, urban and rural, large or small, across every economic and demographic group, benefits from these funds. We all benefit from these funds. In short, we call on the executive branch to at once release the funds that they're holding and denying to students like these here at the Dream Center. Let's avoid another partisan disagreement and turn this unnecessary and irresponsible act on our children into an opportunity to celebrate the good in our students and the good in their teachers and the good in their communities, like the Dream Center. Of all our collective responsibilities as Americans, educating our children should be the one that's free from political division. Let's unite in providing all of our children with the education they deserve for a better tomorrow for us all. And we invite our families, educators, and communities to join us in calling on our representatives and senators in the Congress and leaders in the executive branch to act now based on what's in the best interest of our students, just like the ones here at the Dream Center. Our students' futures cannot wait. Thank you so much.
As Chair Davis indicated, we are in a stronger position with respect to being able to maintain funding for the Dream Center and out-of-school programs across the state than we were this time last week. The federal government has chosen to release tens of millions of dollars that was for after-school programs like the Dream Center that will impact over 10,000 students just in North Carolina. That leaves approximately $135 million. We are still going to go to court, and I think we're going to win. Anybody have any questions? Now would be a perfect time.
Attorney General, where does that lawsuit stand? What's the timeline of when you'll be before a judge to make progress on that?
We've asked the court to treat this as an emergency. We believe that we have a chance of having a hearing within a matter of weeks, not months. And at that hearing, we're going to ask for an emergency response from the court. It's called seeking a preliminary injunction. I believe we will obtain that preliminary injunction. It's critical that we get a response from the court on this before the school year starts. This last-minute maneuver has injected a ton of chaos into public schools across the state, affecting every single school district in the entire state. We need this to be resolved by the court before the school opens.
There was a quote from OMB that said some of this money was being grossly misused to promote a radical left-wing agenda. What do you make of that claim from the White House?
There's no evidence of that at all. If they have problems with the program, they can bring those problems to Congress. They can say, hey, here's what we think you should do. What they can't do under the law is just cancel all the funding. That's against the law, and that's why I'm confident we're going to prevail in court.
Were you surprised to see the release of the 21st Century Community Learning Centers grants?
The reason I wasn't surprised to see the release of funding, particularly for after-school programs like the Dream Center, is because it has bipartisan support. You had 10 Republican senators ask for the reconsideration by the Department of Education to do this, and I think once the scale of the impact sunk in, over 10,000 students in North Carolina, I think the Department of Education realized they had probably overstepped and needed to take a step back. We're grateful that they did.
Attorney General Jackson, I spoke with a senator in a similar position in Charlotte who said, the timing of this decision coming out the day before they were due felt almost intentional so that we wouldn't be prepared. What do you make of that kind of interpretation?
I don't know what the Department of Education's rationale was, but for some reason they said, we're going to wait until the night before, not even the day before. They sent no warning, no heads up at all. They waited until the last possible moment, at which point they sent North Carolina a 3-sentence email providing no detail, just saying $165 million will be frozen as of right now. Since then, unwilling to respond to our questions about why and what we can do.
Why is this issue important to you?
The amount of money is really significant. $165 million is a lot of money for North Carolina. We're talking about potentially 1,000 educators that will have to be laid off. We got 1.5 million kids that are coming back to school in a month. And then we have kids who are in after school and summer programs right now. The scale of the impact is broad, it's severe, and it's immediate because they pulled the rug at the last minute.
I'm not sure if you can speak to this or someone from the Dream Center, but what funding is still frozen that impacts operations here at the Dream Center?
As to operations at the Dream Center, my understanding is those funds are going to be released. That there should not be any funds for the Dream Center that are still being intentionally withheld by the Department of Education. There may be some execution issues there, which we may have to iron out. But my understanding from the Department of Ed is they've decided to release all of the funds that would impact the Dream Center.
Can I add something?
Please.
But of the 135 or so million that has not been released, that affects schools like Forest View High School, Hunter Huss High School, Ashbrook High School, and every school that feeds those Gaston County schools. Bessemer City, East Gaston, they'll all be affected. That's why this is important to me and the Attorney General. It's about our children, their future, their education, right here in Gaston County.
But anything else?
And what plans are in place if this money is not released?
Secretary Mo Green said that there is a little bit of money that can be used as a stopgap. That's in the ballpark of 2 or 3 months. So if this litigation drags on, if we don't get the response from the court as quickly as we want, there is some wiggle room, but not much. School districts all across the state are having to act as if this money is not going to be there. They can't budget hoping that this money arrives, which is why a lot of them have implemented hiring freezes. Wake County School District, the largest in the state, has a hiring freeze in place right now because of this. This is when they're supposed to be ramping up, going into the school year. They can't do that. Anyone else?
What do you think the motivation is behind this move from the federal government?
I don't know, but it does fit a pattern as far as individual agencies basically overstepping and doing things that really are authorized for Congress to do. We saw it recently with respect to FEMA, trying to cancel $200 million in water and sewer funding. And the basic legal argument is the same there as it is here. This was not the Department of Education's money. This is Congress's money. They'd already authorized it to places like the Dream Center and all of these after-school programs. That's why, from a legal standpoint, I can be pretty confident we're going to win. This was not the Department of Education's money to cancel. Anything else? Well, I'll just end by echoing a remark from Marty about how this is about our kids, and if you spend a little time in this place, you will be inspired. This is a wonderful thing that exists, but it exists all across the state. As Chair Davis says, just because we're putting a big bright spotlight on the Dream Center doesn't mean there aren't places like the Dream Center in counties all across the state, benefiting thousands of kids. I would just ask folks to keep that in mind when they're getting a sense of what the overall impact of this is going to be. I'm so grateful to the people of Gaston County, one, for being extremely kind to me throughout the course of my life, and two, for making an investment right here at home that is paying enormous dividends. And anybody who's just now learning about the Dream Center, take a look. You're going to like what you see and consider doing what you can to support them. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. That is Attorney General Jeff Jackson. He is visiting the Dream Center Academy there in Gastonia. So the Dream Center Academy is a community learning center which helps middle and high school students with their next steps, either that be college, either that be trade school or professional development. Full transparency, I've had the pleasure to speak to some of the kids there. Me and photojournalist Pierre Simmons, I've done a couple of stories. So that is a huge center, and they service a lot of kids there. So again, Attorney General Jeff Jackson there highlighting some of the impacts when it comes to education cuts on the federal level. All right, so we want to go now to Massachusetts. This is happening live. This is a follow-up to a story that we brought to you last week, a devastating story there in Fall River. The DA there, along with law enforcement, giving an update on preliminary findings of the Gabriel House Assisted Living Facility fire. That investigation is ongoing. They're answering questions right now, officials. Let's take a listen into what's being said.
Before they breathe it. It's not just coming out of the tank, it's coming out of the oxygen concentrator.
What have public safety about aspect of this? What is the message for residents living in assisted living facilities? How do you prevent something like this from happening again?
Well, again, it's following the rules of the building and the ownership. And again, I think smoking. You should never be smoking near oxygen, and I think that was a significant factor in this fire. And it wasn't just in that origin room, we have oxygen throughout that building, so that contributed to the speed of that fire.
Since the fire damage that you saw at the facility, do you think that the facility will need to be demolished?
I only was in there for a short amount of time. I can't answer that question.
Are you aware of other fires at assisted living homes that started with an oxygen concentrator?
Not off the top of my head, no. You could contact our office and we could research that for you, absolutely.
What have you learned about what the owner and the employees at the facility did or didn't do? Did they follow rules? What are you looking into there, and what have you done?
The investigation is looking at a number of, again, relevant factors. We're here to comment on the cause and origin. If we and other, again, this is a significant event that isn't going to be resolved in a week. So we're looking into anything that's relevant to the cause and origin of the fire, and we'll continue to spend a lot of effort on it. And at some point, when there is further information that can be corroborated and stated clearly, we will inform the public.
Is there an investigation into this issue?
Well, the district attorney, as I said, is in charge of all unattended deaths. This is a substantial loss of life, and The district attorney has the statutory authority to investigate these cases. We'll see what comes of it. Excuse me?
Is the condition of the building a relevant factor for you? Is that what you're looking at?
Well, we're looking at a number of things, again, not to be pinned down to any one thing. Anything that is related to the fire, we're looking at. But it takes some time. It's going to take time. We wanted to come out here and just make clear that the fire was accidental. That's the first step. And then there's a lot of other work that has to be done and followed up on that will be part of the investigation. But I'm not here to comment on all, a number of these details at this point.
What specifically was the cause of death, Mr. Quinn?
Well, the autopsies are in the process of being completed. We're going to have to review those. The official findings will take some time. But as I said, we wanted to come out here and present this aspect. Obviously, it's, again, a terrible tragedy, a significant event, and try to be as open with you as we can. So at this point, you've heard from the chief, the marshal here, and the investigation is ongoing, and we will continue to follow up.
Mr. Quinn, finally, you described this as an unprecedented tragedy.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Right there is a press conference with officials there in Fall River, Massachusetts, giving us an update on a deadly fire at an assisted living facility about a week ago there. Again, we're getting updates there. We want to shift back here. We just moments ago, we just got some sad news in the world of entertainment. Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath singer and godfather of heavy metal, dies at the age of 76. And look, this comes just weeks after his farewell show. James, I think you mentioned that that was in his hometown.
It was in his hometown in England.
So again, we are just getting this news. We've been kind of scouring the internet. We got that from AP News, confirmed. A lot of folks know Ozzy Osbourne for, again, being the Prince of Darkness, iconic rock star.
Yeah. Black Sabbath. You can't go to any sports event without hearing Crazy Train.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every single sporting event, every single football game I think I've gone to. When we were at South Carolina, that was one of our main pre-show, pre-game things.
Yeah.
So
it's a huge.
Everybody knows it.
I mean, and then even the look, the shades, the long black hair, the nails, and even more recently, within the last 20 years or so, the reality show with his family. So folks got to know his wife Sharon Osbourne, who's been on daytime television. His kids,
Kelly and Jack.
Nick, I'm looking at their Instagram accounts right now just to see if any of them have posted anything yet. Not yet, other than I will just point out that Sharon's latest post was 2 hours ago.
Okay.
Seemed like a pretty routine post, but it has now been filled with rest in peace comments and in memoriams from fans who are using that post as a place to kind of add some comments right now.
We know he was diagnosed with Parkinson's a couple years ago.
And I believe the family has a statement out here. I'm seeing it. I don't want to read it because we don't. Hasn't been verified, but I believe this family has a statement. I'm sorry. What were you saying, Carlene? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I said the last. I know that he was diagnosed with Parkinson's back a couple of years ago. So we know he's had a series of health issues.
Some health complications. Again, the Prince of Darkness, as he's been named, has died at the age of 76. We're getting these reports, and now Osbourne. One of the most famous, notorious figures in rock, an innovator who's Erie Well, I'm reading this, helped usher in heavy metal, a showman who once bit off the head of a bat on stage. Now, if you're of a younger generation, you probably don't remember that, but that's something that has kind of lived on, and that story continues over the years to be told about him biting off the head of that bat on stage. Also struggled with substance abuse. And I know he's talked about it in the past. I've heard him talk about, leading to mental health issues as well. But again, became a reality TV show star and loved by so many from a younger generation who did not get a chance to see him or know him as the iconic rock star. All right, so here's what we have on AP News. I just want to read you what they have on their website. Ozzy Osbourne, the gloomy, demon-invoking lead singer of the pioneering band Black Sabbath, who became the throaty, growly voice and drug and alcohol savage of heavy metal, died Tuesday, just weeks after his farewell show at the age of 66. It was a very there's a lot in that description of Ozzy Osbourne. I'm not going to lie to you reading that. Mm-hmm. So article goes on to say, and this is from the family, I believe. But, correct. Okay, so it says, quote, "It is with more sadness that mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time." That's from the family. That's a statement from the family. So in 2020, as Carlene mentioned, he revealed he had Parkinson's disease after suffering from a fall. Just reading down on this article.
And you look at the song titles, and you're like, War Pigs, and Iron Man, and Paranoid, and it's one of those ones that, those artists that my dad certainly knew, and those songs that people resonate with.
I mean, I didn't realize Black Sabbath's self-titled debut LP was in 1969.
Right.
And AP says, so Black Sabbath's 1969 self-titled debut LP has been likened to the big bang of heavy metal. It came during the height of the Vietnam War and crashed the hippie party and dripping menace and foreboding. The cover of the record was of a spooky figure against a stark landscape, and the music was loud, dense, and angry, and marked a shift in rock and roll. I think it's one of those things where, you look at Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, and you kind of pinpoint the turn in the music.
Yeah, I mean, without Black Sabbath, there'd be no these great rock bands of the 80s and 90s. We wouldn't have those.
Yeah, I think of a band like Korn or something like that.
Right, for sure. 9 Inch Nails, all these hard rock bands.
Dark,
but that's that was his essence.
Yeah, And that's what they embodied. And you say that, and I remember watching a documentary about Woodstock, 30th anniversary of Woodstock, and seeing those bands like Korn and 9 Inch Nails perform, and I'm like, that's birthed out of Black Sabbath, right. Ozzy Osbourne, which 1969 first Woodstock was the year Black Sabbath dropped their debut project.
Here.
We got some video.
Some file video here.
So this is
there's the shades.
There's
signature.
Shades. Again, the iconic round shades, black nails, long black hair. Again, if you're just tuning in, rock legend Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76. See if you know any of these classics, Carlene and James. So the band's second album, Paranoid, included such classic metal tunes as War Pigs.
Yep.
I know you mentioned that.
Yep.
Iron Man.
Yep.
And Fairies Wear Boots. Are you familiar with that one?
If I heard it, maybe.
Okay.
It's one of the,
I'm not great with song titles either. So the song Paranoid only reached number 61 on the Billboard Hot 100, but became in many ways the band's signature song. Both albums were voted among the top 10 greatest heavy metal albums of all time by readers of Rolling Stone magazine. again, I'm scrolling through in real time. We're learning information. We're gathering information in real time. Again, you see there, that is video of rock legend Ozzy Osbourne, passed away at the age of 76 this morning.
I'm being told we're about to crawl this into our linear product, so we can reintroduce and ask people who are just kind of refresh after people are probably just now joining us here in a few minutes. But
yeah, we're at the bottom of the hour. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene and James are here in the studio with me, and we're just learning the news of the death of heavy metal icon Ozzy Osbourne. Passed away at the age of 76. Right there, you're looking at video from events past. As a video from one of the Grammy Award events from years past.
The eyeliner, iconic.
The eyeliner, I was about to say.
The shades.
So that picture is from his last concert, and if you have a chance, Carlene, there's a tweet that they posted to Ozzy's X account around the time of the last concert. We don't have a new message just yet, but I thought the tweet really helped kind of encapsulate and describe what that event meant to them, and how all of us will be able to experience it in the near future, because I know that I was not intimately familiar with this event, but as Nick, you were talking about this, Back to the Beginnings, Ozzy's Final Bow, which happened earlier this month in England. They are going to be releasing it in early 2026 as a feature-length concert film, coming to the big screen to celebrate the life of Ozzy Osbourne and the legacy of Black Sabbath, capturing the raw power and emotional weight of Ozzy's final bow in his hometown of Birmingham, they write. So they posted that on July 18th. So again, this isn't news that necessarily is a result of learning of his passing today, but this is just something that a lot of Ozzy fans, I'm sure, were already looking forward to, and now will hold an even more importance for them. It goes on to say, presented as a love letter to Ozzy and the pioneering sound of Black Sabbath, the theatrical release will be a distilled version of the epic all-day event, featuring thunderous performances by, and they go on to list all of the performers that came out: War Pigs, Iron Man, Children of the Grave, and so. Again, that picture right here, I think we're going to be seeing this picture a lot today, Nick.
Yeah, and that's from his last performance.
Yes.
You mentioned.
Yeah, I think Live Nation put this picture out with regards to that last performance.
Wow. I just saw, as you were reading, I was scrolling through X, and Flavor Flav, the iconic Flavor Flav, who he actually posted some pictures, recent pictures, along with a picture from back in the 80s, with himself and Ozzy Osbourne. He wrote on X, "Man, real heartbroken over the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. We go way back, and it was a real honor to watch him get inducted into the Rock and Roll. I believe that is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yep, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year. Wow, he was just inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It seems like this just. Well, let me finish reading his statement. So, sending my love and prayers to Sharon and his kids and whole family. Rest in peace. But Ozzy Osbourne inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just last year. Wow.
Right.
It seems like long overdue. And I'm glad he was able to see that while he was alive, that honor. But, man, I did not realize it came last year. I'm scrolling through X right now.
I should keep an eye out. Like, I know Jack Black was also paid tribute at that last final concert, performing along, right beside Ozzy. And I was waiting to see if, he'll put out a statement. I'm sure he and his Tenacious D were huge Ozzy fans, so kind of waiting to see people react. A lot of people are just now finding out the news. This news coming down in the last 20 minutes or so. We learned about it, and as soon as we did, we were trying to confirm it, one, and then two, get you some context. But let me scroll back up to the statement that I had from the AP. Again, you're looking at a picture from one of his last performances. I got some more video too here.
And here's video from years past.
Jack, that's his son right beside him. Yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne, rock legend, heavy metal icon, passed away, has died at the age of 76 years old. This is a statement from his family that I want to read again. So, quote, It is with more sadness than mere words can't convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time. And as Carlene mentioned earlier, back in 2020, he revealed he had Parkinson's disease after suffering a fall. But again, an iconic musician, figure in music and pop culture.
Yeah, the Osbournes, the show was iconic. For people of our age, we definitely watched.
I mean, it's one of the first. I want to say the first reality show, but one of the first, in my memory, hit reality shows. It was on, I believe it was on MTV. Was it on MTV? MTV. I know they did reruns on VH1.
Yes, it was on MTV originally. Kind of like, peel back the curtain of this, rock and roll family. And
it made them less scary. I'm not going to lie.
It made them less scary. It was, for a man who, bit off bats' heads, we made him endearing.
He was the Prince of Darkness. So as a little kid, you see Ozzy Osbourne and you see those old photos. It's like, oh, this is kind of scary. But again, the reality show made him more human.
Yes.
You saw the connection of
with all the pets. They had so many animals and all the things. It was a softer side to the Prince of Darkness.
Much softer side. His son and his daughter. And his wife as well.
Sharon,
really just catapulting into fame.
Yeah.
So speaking of Sharon and speaking of their time in the reality show, our own Larry Sprinkle had a chance to talk with Sharon. I just dropped this in our Tuesday folder.
Okay.
So this is obviously an interview from a couple years ago. Celebrities, Nick, they do those satellite talkbacks where they're promoting a product or they're promoting a show. So Larry, a couple years ago, did this very brief satellite interview with her where they talk about her career, her life, but also her family, her husband. Yeah. And so we have a little bit of this we just turned from the WCNC archives.
Let's take a listen into this.
Sure. And I have to ask you about, here's something interesting, Sharon. Your husband, Ozzy, and I worked together in a movie called Trick or Treat. He played a rock and roll, anti-rock and roll evangelist. I played a talk show host. So I worked with him a few years back.
Oh, my Lord, I remember that in New York.
Yes, absolutely. It was shown in New York. Actually filmed in Wilmington. He was on tour at the time, and great. We had so much fun together. It was so great to sit down and be with him, and it's great to have you here this morning. You make sure you tell him I said hello. I want to talk to you about.
I will.
I think a lot of people don't realize how long you have been in the music business as a manager. You've managed, obviously, Ozzy, other bands. You put together Ozfest. I mean, do you still enjoy that part of your career, the music business?
I do. It's what I know. It's what I was brought up in. It's all I know. And TV is a very different beast to the music. But yes, I still enjoy the music, and I'm lucky to work with my husband and Black Sabbath, and it's you don't get bigger than that and better than that. So everything is fantastic.
And I know that your involvement with the band with Ozzy. I think he's on tour. Isn't that right? He's on tour right now.
Yes, Sabbath are on tour right now. Yeah, they've been on the road for 2 years.
That's amazing. Well, he is, with all the things that you guys have been through. I mean, everything really looks good. I mean, his life is on target, and he's doing well in his career. And I think a lot of that has to do with his manager, whose name is Sharon Osbourne. So I know you probably would say, "Oh, come on," but it's really the truth. I mean, you've done some amazing things, and you look forward to all the great things you can be doing. Charlotte?
Do you know how many times I've been to Charlotte? So many times over the years on tour with Ozzy.
That is great. Well, that's fantastic. I hope the next time you guys come to town, we have a chance to meet you in person. But thank you so much, Sharon Osbourne, and good luck to all of those many things that you're involved in your career. Thank you so much.
And that was from 2014. 2014. 2014 feels like a lifetime ago, guys.
Right?
But that was an interesting interview there with Larry and Sharon Osbourne, the wife of Ozzy Osbourne. If you're just now tuning in to the stream, rock legend Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76 years old. And one of the things that stuck out from that interview, he constantly toured.
Constantly.
That was 10 years ago.
Busy.
He just wrapped up his final tour, so I can only imagine how many shows he has done.
Couldn't imagine.
Gosh, in his 50-year career, 50-plus year career, Ozzy Osbourne, from the music to the reality show. And you saw his wife Sharon, who has been a very integral part of his life. You see her in some of this video that we're showing, because she was by his side for a lot of it. Again, I read a tweet, and we're looking for, a post on X. We continue to see reaction come in. I want to read you the post from Flavor Flav. Here it is, man. Real heartbroken over the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. We go way back, and it was a real honor to watch him get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year. Sending my love and prayers to Sharon and his kids and whole family. Rest in peace. And that is a picture on the left of Flavor Flav, Ozzy Osbourne, and Jelly Roll.
Jelly Roll.
Yeah. And then a picture, a throwback from the 80s. That's Flavor Flav and Ozzy Osbourne. Wow. An iconic photo. Again, a lot of people, we just got this news within the last 20 to 30 minutes or so. So a lot of people are just now seeing this, trying to process this, the news of Ozzy Osbourne passing away. Again, for us, obviously outside of his family, unexpected. Did not see this coming at all. So we continue to get information in real time. I want to go back to this AP article that had sort of a list of, and it blew my mind. I just didn't think about it. But 1969
yeah. It's a long time.
Was Black Sabbath's debut LP. And AP described it as big bang of heavy metal. It came at the height. You think about that time, 1969. This is the height of the Vietnam War. You're in this sort of hippie movement.
Right.
So it sort of crashes that hippie party. And that hippie movement was about peace and love and light. And there were a lot of psychedelic drugs and things happening, but you bring in a group like Black Sabbath, which is a very dark group. Very menacing.
It's also interesting. I can't remember if it was on the show or just in an interview I watched with Ozzy, that he was a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah.
Now you think about what Ozzy Osbourne brings to the table musically,
with
and the Beatles is two completely different things. But it just kind of shows you this spectrum of an artist.
And the evolution of music, like it just, you can be inspired by something and then take it and grow it and let it evolve into your own, right? And his own was that of Black Sabbath, which was loud and angry, and as AP is reporting, marked a shift in the genre of rock and roll. I think about 1969. You think about that era. You think about Jimi Hendrix.
Yep.
And this was complete opposite.
Yep.
A
lot harder.
A lot harder. And look, they've had iconic albums and songs. Paranoid, the second album, had, you may have heard this. Carlene mentioned this. One of the first songs he mentioned. War Pigs is on that album. Yep. Iron Man is on that album. Fairies Wear Boots. So they had some signature songs. Their albums, often when you look at the Billboard Hot 100 greatest albums list and all times lists, you look at these lists that outlets like Rolling Stone, what they do, you're going to find a Black Sabbath album on that list.
For sure. It's like I said, when Ozzy did his solo thing, he did Crazy Train. And like, you can't go to a football game without hearing Crazy Train. You can't go to a lot of sporting events without hearing Crazy Train. You know, it's like you don't realize how much it's like in our mainstay of pop culture, even in 2025, until, you know, something like this unfortunately happens. You really think about like the impact.
You sit back and reflect,
Osbourne.
and you're like, wow. Okay. And you know what's funny? You brought up the Beatles, and you brought up what Ozzy said about, you know, he loved the Beatles.
He loved the Beatles.
So I just want to read a quote, make sure I get it right. Dave Navarro of the band Jane's Addiction.
Jane's Addiction, yeah.
Wrote in 2010 a tribute in Rolling Stone. He said, "Black Sabbath are the Beatles of heavy metal."
Right? Like, they're trailblazers, yeah.
Anybody who's serious about metal will tell you it all comes down to Sabbath. So it's funny that you just said that. And the comparison, and it's really true. You think about the Beatles when they come in, they marked a shift.
Right.
Black Sabbath, they mark a shift.
And you know what? His passing, Ozzy's passing, Nick, when you use the Beatles analogy, like the passing of a Beatle is like the end of an era.
Yeah.
The same thing with Ozzy.
Yeah.
It's the end of a chapter.
Yeah.
Man.
For many.
A long chapter at that. Man, and again, a lot of, you know, I guess, everybody, James, are you millennial?
I don't actually know which gen I am. I don't think about it that much. I'd have to go figure out what year maps to what.
I promise I'm getting somewhere with this.
Okay. If it helps you, yes, I am.
Okay. But like,
I'm an elder millennial, I believe.
Older millennial. So I'm a middle-aged millennial. Carly,
not middle-aged.
Middle-aged millennial. So I guess what I'm getting to, and I promise I'm making a point here, is that our first real interaction with Black Sabbath, outside of maybe what our parents and older generations, is the reality TV show.
Yeah.
Reality
it's kind of our first touchstone, at least for people our age. Yeah.
Right. By then, it was already like his music was already like a classic. It was
It was already on the classic station for.
I mean, I look at my mom. I'm putting her age out there, but when Black Sabbath was out, she was a preteen.
Yeah.
So. Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom.
But it just shows.
My mom was a little older. If it makes you feel any better.
But they were young, so some of the stuff they were able to listen to, some of the stuff they were not able to listen to. But you know, we were really coming of age when the reality show came out, the Osbournes.
I think we have Nathaniel online if you want to try and talk to sweet Nathaniel, our dear coworker.
Who is a music aficionado, works on our assignment desk, digital, does a lot here. So we're working to get Nathaniel up.
I think if we can ask, Nathaniel, can you hear us, babe?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
sure can.
Got you, Nathaniel. So Nathaniel, it's Nick here. I just want to get your reaction, man. I know we kind of caught you as you are en route, but just give me your initial thoughts. And you're hearing the news of rock legend Ozzy Osbourne passing away. And again, I know you do all things music here, man.
Sure. So this is a day that rock and metal fans have unfortunately known has been coming for a long time. Ozzy has been dealing with some health problems over the past few years. I think it is so poetic and so amazing, though, that he was able to play that one last concert a few weeks ago. Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne and a whole slew of bands hosted this big festival in a couple weeks ago to honor the life of Ozzy Osbourne and to honor the band Black Sabbath, because Ozzy Osbourne, I think I heard you guys mention, I mean, like they're the Beatles of hard rock and heavy metal music. I would venture to throw out there, they're the founding fathers. You know, you think of George Washington and James Madison, kind of the fathers of our country. I look at Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath in that same light. They are the ones who invented metal music, not intentionally. They weren't planning to do that. They were just doing their thing, but the thing, what they grinded out and what they produced ended up inspiring so much. I mean, you can see it when I walk through the building and I have this ridiculously long hair going past my shoulders. You know, that's because people like Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Bill Ward, and Geezer Butler were there in the studio back in 1970 and producing their first album, Black Sabbath. And, 1970, right? I mean, you said that your mother was a preteen. I was not even born. My parents were not even born in 1970, but their music has stood the test of time. It has lasted forever. And I truly believe that people like Ozzy Osbourne are going to be remembered the way we look at Beethoven and Mozart hundreds of years from now. They are just absolute legends from everything Ozzy Osbourne did. All of the albums he did with Black Sabbath in the 1970s were just, pristine. I mean, I still listen to those daily, almost weekly at least. And then what he did in his solo career somehow even topped what Black Sabbath did in the 70s. I mean, you think of everybody and their mom knows Crazy Train, right? You've heard that in movies and commercials and everything. That's such an iconic song. And then even just Ozzy himself, the personality, he bit off a head of a bat, which is a little silly to think about, but he was a larger than life figure. And like when you think of a rock star and you think of somebody who is doing ridiculous things, I mean, Ozzy Osbourne did it. And truly, truly is sad that we have lost him at 76 years old. But quite honestly, considering a lot of the things he was doing around the 70s and 80s, a miracle that he made it to 2025. But we're very grateful and very very glad that he was able to live the life he did and leave the impact that he did. So truly sad, and we will be mourning him for days and weeks to come. But just a very a time to memorialize him more than I think than to feel sad.
Yeah, well said, Nathaniel. I do want to ask, what was, Carlene and I talk about how the reality show was sort of our first sort of, not introduction, but first sort of getting to know who Ozzy Osbourne is. For you, was it the music? And if so, the music, what song was it? What album was it for you that made you fall in love with Ozzy?
Sure, good question. I certainly was not aware of the reality show until much into my teens, but I had been listening to rock and metal music kind of all my life, thanks to my parents, especially my dad. He would be playing the rock station, and my parents had CDs. I don't know if I necessarily knew who Ozzy Osbourne was, but I definitely knew a lot of songs that would come on the radio, like No More Tears or Crazy Train or Bark at the Moon. But the first time I can remember knowing who Ozzy Osbourne was and thinking this guy was really cool, I want to say I was 12 years old, and I actually had the game Guitar Hero, and the video game Guitar Hero, and the song Mr. Crowley was in that game, and I remember just falling in love. Like it has this like really crazy kind of Renaissance-y keyboard, like something you would hear in a vampire movie, like to start it off, and then Ozzy comes on just with this crazy kind of sounding singing in the beginning when he started singing the lyrics to Mr. Crowley, and I think that was like a moment that I fell in love, I would say, with rock and metal music forever. And Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, not necessarily my ultimate top favorite band, but I would say that if I had to pinpoint any moment in my life that I went from just casually listening to music to really obsessing over music was when I heard Ozzy Osbourne's Mr. Crowley.
Nathaniel, you've been so generous with your time. Before I let you go, one more question. There is a younger generation, much younger than us.
Don't be dramatic. It's not that much younger than us.
Oh, they're younger. They may have seen Ozzy Osbourne, but they don't know the music or the reality show or the stuff that came afterwards. What would you sort of tell them about Ozzy?
I'm driving through Charlotte, and sometimes the connection is not so great here. So I believe you asked, what would I tell the younger generation about Ozzy Osbourne? Just that, if you've ever liked music with guitars, if you ever heard a song that's a little heavy is the term we use. I don't know how to describe that in like a layman's term, but a little harder, something with a little more oomph than your normal song. Then Ozzy Osbourne is one of the originators of that. He's, you know, one of the people that kind of laid the groundwork for what we have today. And, you know, just he's an exciting person. And you know, there are some stories that I've certainly heard and read about that I don't know are exactly PG enough for Live Impact News, but you know, certainly if I was talking to a younger person trying to get into metal music, I would share some of those stories.
I completely understand, Nathaniel. Nathaniel, thank you for your time and thank you for sharing what Ozzy meant to you, what he meant to fans. Again, thank you. Thank you again. Again, that's WCNC Charlotte decisional producer Nathaniel. Thank you for your time. I think he's en route to the station. He's on his way here. So again, thank you for your time, Nathaniel. All right, so can we pull up this post? Oh man, so this is pretty cool.
They just posted this 10 weeks ago on Ozzy's Instagram.
And you know why this is pretty cool? Because Carlene knows I'm going to say it. I'm from High Point, so growing up, the Greensboro Coliseum, a huge deal. They have a bunch of I don't know what acts they have now, but big concerts.
That was your Big Get place.
Oh, yeah. Big Get place. And to see this Greensboro Coliseum, the ticket price $12.50.
If only.
If only.
$12. You can maybe get a beer for that.
That's
maybe.
It's gonna be a big culture.
It's gonna be your PER, but it's $12.50. Could you imagine?
$12.50 is a hot dog and a water at the
if that.
If that.
No condiments.
May 8th, 1984, Ozzy Osbourne playing there at the Greensboro Coliseum. Again, that is what is now known as Gate City Boulevard in Greensboro. Back in the day, it was High Point Road. Iconic. You think about the Greensboro Coliseum, that's where the ACC tournament was held for years.
Yep.
I'm thinking over the years, Stevie Wonder has played there, Jay-Z. As you see there, Ozzy Osbourne. I'm just trying to build up and tell you the significance of this venue and at least what it meant for me. So this is pretty cool with this connection. Again, if you're just seeing this, and this was posted just 10 weeks ago.
Just 10 weeks ago on Ozzy's Instagram.
That's a little over 2 months ago. Again, we're getting the news in the last 30 minutes or so. Heavy metal icon Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76 years old. It's a cool moment from about 10 years ago. Did you know this, Vanessa? Vanessa's standing right beside me. Larry Sprinkle got a chance to speak with Sharon Osbourne.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either.
Talks with everyone.
So Larry Sprinkle got a chance to speak with Sharon Osbourne. Got to reminisce about his time. Larry has actually worked with Ozzy. Yeah. Well, let's listen into this interview.
And I have to ask you about, here's something interesting, Sharon. Your husband, Ozzy, and I worked together in a movie called Trick or Treat. He played a rock and roll, anti-rock and roll evangelist. I played a talk show host. So I worked with him a few years back.
Oh, my Lord. I remember that in New York.
Yes, absolutely. It was shown in New York, actually filmed in Wilmington. He was on tour at the time, and great. You know, we had so much fun together. It was so great to sit down and be with him, and it's great to have you here this morning. You make sure you tell him I said hello. I want to talk to you about.
You know I will.
I think a lot of people don't realize how long you have been in the music business as a manager. You've managed, obviously, Ozzy, other bands. You put together Ozfest. I mean, do you still enjoy that part of your career, the music business?
I do. You know, it's what I know. It's what I was brought up in. It's all I know. And TV is a very different beast to the music. But yes, I still enjoy the music, and you know, I'm lucky to work with my husband and Black Sabbath, and it's, you know, you don't get bigger than that and better than that. So everything is fantastic.
And I know that your involvement with the band with Ozzy. I think he's on tour. Isn't that right? He's on tour right now.
Yes, Sabbath are on tour right now. Yeah, they've been on the road for 2 years.
That's amazing. Well, he is, with all the things that you guys have been through. I mean, everything really looks good. I mean, his life is on target, and he's doing well in his career. And I think a lot of that has to do with his manager, whose name is Sharon Osbourne. So I know you probably would say, "Oh, come on," but it's really the truth. I mean, you've done some amazing things, and you look forward to all the great things you can be doing in the future. And have you ever been to Charlotte? I was going to ask you that.
Do you know how many times I've been to Charlotte? So many times over the years on tour with Ozzy.
That is great. Well, that's fantastic. I hope the next time you guys come to town, we have a chance to meet you in person. But thank you so much, Sharon Osbourne, and good luck to all of those many things that you're involved in your career. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, so you could see there an much earlier interview that our Larry Sprinkle did with Sharon Osbourne, the wife, 2014. Yeah, quite a bit earlier. But really just amazing insights to have. And we're going to try to get Larry back because we hear that he's roaming around somewhere in the building. Oh, I think I caught a glimpse. Let's, folks, we got a traffic jam happening here. Do we want to do Nick Carboni? Let's do Nick first. Stay tuned, folks. Larry is going to be coming here to the Live Impact News studio in just a moment to weigh in here once again. Black Sabbath frontman Ozzy Osbourne, dead at the age of 76, leaving a big legacy behind. So we're going to chat with Larry about that in just a couple of moments. Meantime, we've got on the sports front here, Panthers training camp underway. We've got our sports director, Nick Carboni, standing by. So yesterday, we know, Nick, it was rookies. Today, it's veterans. What can you tell us about how things are going today? Any highlights that you're seeing, and what are we expecting over the next couple of hours as you start to put your reporting together for what happened so far this week?
Vanessa, Panthers training camp practice actually starts tomorrow at 10 o'clock, but you're right. Rookies like top pick Ted Iroa McMillan reported yesterday. All of the rookies are signed. There were some loose ends on that front, but that got cleared up over the weekend. Veterans reported to the building today. Now, just to take you inside a little bit, well, really we can't anymore because when practice and training camp was in Spartanburg at Wofford College, we were able to see the guys drive up, take their furniture out, move into the dorm rooms. But the Panthers, like the majority of NFL teams, now hold training camp here in their home, at their home stadium. So we will see them out on the field tomorrow. So today kind of became a state of the franchise type vibe from general manager Dan Morgan, who actually opened with a prepared statement, and he talked about, the team's expectations and goals for the season. One thing he did not mention notably was the word playoffs, and he was asked about that. And he basically said, look, if we take care of all the things that I just listed, those are the types of things that come with it, but it does have to be earned for this team. So what that says to me is in year 2 under Dan Morgan as GM and year 2 under Dave Canales as head coach, they're not going into this season with those lofty expectations. That may come next season, but make no mistake about it, they're better on paper by the moves that they made. Dan Morgan calling them targeted moves in the offseason and free agency and the draft. And they expect to compete more than they did last year when they only won 5 games, but closed the season with a strong finish. But playoffs, that may be something that they openly start stating as a goal going into next year. But make no mistake, they take playoffs this year, and there is a path to the playoffs, I think, if you really dig deep into this team.
Really exciting to see the potentials here for the team this season. I know this is probably on a little bit of a lighter note, but I always have to ask, since this is kind of a topic ever since we learned that T-Mac was coming here, have we gotten any reviews on how the weather alert days have been going over this week? Because he was talking about the humidity before. Obviously, he's coming from a much drier part of the country.
He did play college at Arizona, but the confusing part of his comment in May at rookie minicamp, when he basically said that he wasn't prepared for the humidity, and it wasn't even humid then, as you can tell it is now. He grew up in Hawaii, where it's obviously very humid. So he did kind of clear that up. I think he saw that how viral it went, and nothing to do with anything I did, but I tweeted like a somewhat blurry picture of him with the quote, and I think it got over 1 million views because if you want to get anybody in the Carolinas going, tell them you think it's humid in May. They'll all come back at you and say, just wait. So we'll have to get his temperature on that, so to speak, when we talk to Ted Iroa this week. But he's an athlete. He's prepared for it, and the Panthers are really excited to have him here.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of alluded to this before, I feel like, in your reporting this week thus far, the fact that it seems like they're going a little bit easier or easing into things so far. Is that an accurate takeaway that I have from, your analysis of how training camp's going or will go this week?
Yeah, you just look at the schedule, Vanessa, and again, when they were in Spartanburg, you'd go down there and it'd be 4 straight days of practice. This week, they'll practice tomorrow, they'll practice Thursday at 10 o'clock, and then they will have a walkthrough. So obviously a much lighter day on day 3 of training camp. They won't hit the pads until a little bit further into training camp, and that is by design. That's always by design. But it's really up to the head coach to kind of set how practice is structured. They have a certain amount of 90-minute practices, a certain amount of 2-hour practices, and they only have a certain amount of practices overall. Dave Canales clearly looking to kind of ramp things up. I think with all the sports science research and sports medicine that you have now, that's probably the smart way to do it to avoid injuries heading into the regular season. But all these guys train really hard over the off season. They have to do that on their own, but we're finding out a lot of them stayed right here in Charlotte and did it here. And that's probably a good sign for the franchise to have guys in this building. I know that's what Coach Canales wanted them to do as they broke mini camp and had that month and a half or so before training camp.
I mean, you talked about some of the differences with Spartanburg. I know we're starting to get more and more removed from that setup, but any thoughts on, I guess team building or, building camaraderie? Because I feel like, and I don't know why this sticks in my head, but I remember for many years the big enjoyment of watching folks arriving at training camp was kind of seeing like what they were bringing and like the tubs of candy and I don't know, just I'm kind of curious whether that element is kind of dropping off or they're just finding a different way to have that kind of fun.
Oh, make no mistake, there will be candy, there will be snacks. Usually it's up to the rookies. Say you're a rookie offensive lineman, well, you're bringing in all the snacks to the offensive lineman room. We can't see it, but they can't hide it. We know that's happening. We did talk to guard Rob Hunt about the camaraderie and the team bonding, and he said it's really, really good. He was new last year. He can tell guys are getting really close. And listen, they all take time off to be with their families and take vacations before training camp. But like I said, stay in shape during that time. But there's continuity here. There's the same head coach, the same quarterback, the same general manager. It's been a handful of seasons since you could say that in Carolina. So I think everybody's more comfortable with each other, and they hope that leads to better results on the field. The one thing we did learn today, and these are always fun, Nick Scorton, who's the team's second-round pick this year, he told us he likes taking walks. So I asked him, there's some science behind that. Do you like doing that because it can help clear your head or can help you think of things that you wouldn't think of in a sedentary position? He said, no, not really. I've been trying to walk my new cat. So of course we had to follow up on that. So Nick Scorton is not a dog guy like we are. That's okay. So he has a Maine Coon cat, which apparently can get massive, but his is only 14 to 15 weeks old. So he has tried to put a leash on the cat and walk it. Hasn't gone according to plan so far. So if you see a very large football player walking a very large cat around Uptown, that is probably Nick Scorton and his Maine Coon cat.
You know what? I do like
These
to
are
take
the
some
kind of
walks
things we pick up on
around
in training
Uptown.
camp.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I love to take walks around Uptown too. I will definitely be looking for that. You're right. That is a big cat, and it's also a pretty thick-coated cat too, from what I remember. Oh, I hope that the cat's staying hydrated, but I'm sure he's got that all under control.
I'm sure he is. Yeah.
All right, Nick, anything you want to leave us with before we wrap things up? I know you're standing in the sun and it's getting quite toasty out there. I was out there earlier today, in the sun.
Training camp heat has not changed despite the location. Obviously no fans this year. I know fans would love to battle the heat and be out there. We're sorry not to see them for the next 2 years, unfortunately, as the Panthers continue to build their new field house that they expect to be ready by the 2027 season. There is Fan Fest August 2nd, but yeah, we'll have coverage today at 4 o'clock. And then at 5:30, just up the street, we've also got ACC Kickoff Media Days happening. And California hired a general manager heading into the season, as a lot of colleges are doing with NIL. Their general manager is none other than the winningest coach in Panthers history, Ron Rivera. So you will hear from him at 5:30. Had a great time catching up with him. I believe that entire interview is up on WCNC Plus and our YouTube page as well. And you'll hear more about Bryce Young, because what does the 2025 season pivot upon? What is the excitement really centered around? It is his improvement over the end of last season. 16 total touchdowns, 4 interceptions over his final 8 games. He found that confidence. Can he carry it into this season? So we'll hear from GM Dan Morgan on that at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be evolving. All right, Nick, we're looking forward to your reporting, and we will see you a bit later here on WCNC Plus.
You got it.
All right.
AC, 5 steps away. Right now.
I know. Get there. You deserve it. Oh, my goodness. It is still a toasty one, even though we are not weather alert today on that front, but nevertheless, still pretty hot. All right, we'll see you later, Nick. And folks here on Live Impact News, as we talked about just a few moments ago before we chatted with Nick Carboni, we are on the coverage of this breaking entertainment news. Some sad news for folks who either, know him from reality TV or from the large, litany of music that he has put together and the impact that he's had on music. But heavy metal singer, legendary frontman of Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, has passed away at the age of 76. And this comes actually just weeks after a farewell show that he did in Birmingham, in England. And we shared a snippet of our Larry Sprinkle sitting down and chatting with Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne's wife. This was back in 2014. And we were teasing the fact that we were trying to round up Larry and bring him in to get some updated insight on the legacy of Mr. Osbourne. Larry is here joining us in the Live Impact News studio. Larry, we're so glad we could round you up.
I didn't have to go far. I was actually in the building. They probably didn't even realize I was still here, back in the cave I'm in most of the time. Yeah, it was quite a shock, because I was not even aware of this until I got the call from Sharif, one of our managers here, that he passed away. Then obviously I read about it. So quite a shock, especially since it wasn't that long ago that he did his final performance, which was his final performance.
Yeah. I mean, this was a show we kind of alluded to that was in England, a reunion with Black Sabbath band members. I believe they played for 40,000 folks. And this did really mark the end of the touring career, following what we saw was a diagnosis back in 2020 of Parkinson's. And then there was a spinal surgery that caused him to put a hiatus on things back in 2023. So we know that he, did not have a great, diagnosis that he was working with, but a shock nonetheless. And we have all sorts of folks who are weighing in right now on, his legacy and what he means to them. And for folks who love music, it's kind of hard to like, a genre of music that maybe doesn't have some sort of tangential impact from Mr. Osbourne.
I had a chance to work with Ozzy back in 1986 on a movie called Trick or Treat, which is a very interesting film because it's a horror movie without blood. It's called High-Tech Horror. It was recently released last year and has gotten kind of I hate to say the term cult, but there's a group of people that are fanatics about that film. Gene Simmons from Kiss is also in it. Ozzy plays the part. Not typecasting, he plays the part of an evangelist who hates rock and roll.
Oh, man.
It was such an interesting concept that you take someone who is such an adamant member of the rock and roll community to play the antithesis of what he was on stage. It was a fun time with him, because at the time I worked with him, I had a chance to spend probably... We shot on about 3 days that I had a chance to spend with him, quite a number of hours each day. He turned out to be, at that time, 1986, he was kind of in between the areas of life when he seemed to be sober and not sober. That was a completely sober time for him. Down to earth, nice guy, completely honest. I had been in radio so much of my career at that point. Had played his music on the air, and you get a lot of interesting things about him. And I remember in a bit of conversation, I said, "Hey, Ozzy, you know, your reputation precedes you." And I said, I remember specifically about one particular concert you did where someone, I think that there was a bat, threw it on stage, and he took it and bit its head off. I said, "We know you did that, and then you kept doing it." And he said, "Larry, I got to be honest with you. Yes, I did do it one time, but the rest of the times it was just a rubber bat, and no one really knew. They thought it was the real thing every time." I mean, he was open and honest, and I said, "Ozzy, you know, your career has been enhanced by a lot of chemicals." And he goes, "Let me tell you something." He says, "Right now, I'm almost totally sober. Drugs have gone, and I'm still having a little bit of alcohol." That was 1986. So we know during the reality series he did, he had some dependency problems, and then at some point again, he overcame all of that, and then he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
I mean, that's incredible to kind of have that insight. And I know you mentioned, you know, the reputation preceding him. Like, a lot of folks know about that bat story. I think that's pretty cool that you actually got to ask him about it directly.
Yeah.
And it is great to hear, you know, the good reviews of actually getting to meet him and work with him.
And spend some time with him. And I remember, if you ever have a chance, you can find it the film Trick or Treat. But in the one particular scenes that we worked in, they had to braid his hair down, and literally, it's about the length mine now. And he looked at it and he goes, and I remember him sitting there in makeup and having the hair braided down. He goes, "You know, if my mom sees me right now, she'll want me to come back to England and be a truck driver again." Because I guess at some point in his life, as a teenager, maybe he was a truck driver. But he turned out to be a nice guy. I mean, all this crazy reputation with that little bit of, you know, devil in his eyes, and but down to earth. And at that time he said, "I've met this wonderful lady who's straightening me out. Her name is Sharon," who eventually became his wife. And I spoke to her, and then was it a couple of years ago? I spoke to his daughter, and it was an interview that I did here at the station, and it was something that I can't remember what she was doing, and I said, "Hey, by the way, tell your father that the guy who worked with him," I knew he didn't know my name, but the guy that worked with him in Trick or Treat said hello." And he goes, and she said, "Well, they had just been looking at some still shots from that movie, some black and whites that they had shot." And she said, "Yeah, I'll definitely tell him that you said hello." So that's my last communication directly to Ozzy, was through his daughter, Kelly Osbourne.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. You have so many different connections in the music world, and you alluded to this as well. Your chat with Sharon Osbourne, we played that for folks just a few moments ago. Any takeaways from speaking with her? Obviously, you had great reviews of Mr. Osbourne, but it seemed like a really cordial chat, and she talked about coming to Charlotte, and she's been here many times. That's pretty neat.
It definitely was, and you know. She basically did, and even though you saw their reality show, and he was, but you know, it was a reality show, so I'm sure that some of that may have been embellished, but she really did take this person who was totally out of control and bring him back to reality, and managed Black Sabbath for a period of time, and then managed him in his music career, and you know, that relationship was so totally honest. I mean, we saw that in the reality show and everything, but I think she really brought a balance to a guy's life who had been off the rails. You know, he had been as completely out there as anybody had been. And the saddest part was the fact that his diagnosis. But you know what? I think if you could have spoken to him, I think he would have said that he did everything that he wanted to do in life, and he accomplished that last mission, and that was to do that last show with Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I mean, what a treat, I guess, for fans at this point, knowing that they got to have one last moment with him. And sometimes I feel like with musical artists, you never know when that's going to happen. And whenever they come through town, you know, whoever it is, if you have like a legend that happens to come through town, and you're like, should I go? And I always feel like You got to go when you get the chance, because you just never know if that's going to be the last time in some cases.
Especially in that business, because it takes so many people a young life. So, he lived a life up to 76 years old, but you take someone like Elvis, who died in his early 40s, who really didn't have a full life, but obviously accomplished so much in his life as well.
Yeah. Now, you alluded to the chat with Kelly. We actually found it. We found it in the archives.
You did?
Yeah, our producer James is
Way to go,
extraordinaire.
If anybody can find something in our archives, it's James.
Yeah, and I believe you did that interview that we're about to share. Do you want to roll it? Do you want to hear a little bit of it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
okay,
great.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
You tell your dad I said hello. In 1986, Ozzy and I worked together in a movie called Trick or Treat. I worked with him. He played.
No,
this,
you did not work on that movie.
I was the guy.
Oh
I was the interviewer. Yeah, the TV talk shows who interviewed your dad. He was playing a televangelist who hated rock and roll, of all things.
I remember that. We just found all the pictures from the set from that when my parents moved house. So
yes.
That's really interesting.
Tell Ozzy I said hello.
What a dink.
Yes. Let's talk about. Now this is so interesting. This is not fashions for people, but it's a whole different thing. It's fashions for your pet. Tell us about this project.
It is fashion for. It's called Pet Express.
Well, I mean, we love the pet stuff for sure. I know you do too, Larry.
Yes.
But that's pretty neat. We saw the clips, and you talked about how they basically doctored up his appearance. I mean, it's unrecognizable.
I don't think anybody would ever known that was Ozzy Osbourne in the way they braided his hair and everything. You can see he was, and Charlie Martin Smith directed that film. Charlie Martin Smith is a character actor who's been in so many movies, and he was such a great director because in shooting that sequence. Charlie Martin Smith came and said, he said, Larry, Ozzy is very nervous about doing this. He's never done a film before. He doesn't know what to do. He said, I want you to go. And we actually shot this at the NBC affiliate in Wilmington. A lot of films are shot in Wilmington. And so it was, the set was designed, it was a talk show set. And he said, just do the show, get him comfortable, and we'll just go with the flow. And so we did that. So I think that was from about an hour and a half of just talking to him and then slowly evolving that into now he's the character, this evangelist who hates rock and roll. And you saw him, he reacted, and it was real. It was totally real on his part in that film, the character he played. And then you didn't see the album. You saw one album. I'm not going to repeat the name of it. But the other albums that were on the set, on the table in front of me, were all Ozzy or Black Sabbath albums. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, it's terrible what these rock and rollers are doing to our young minds. They're just taking their minds and making them trash what they're doing. So that was from the movie itself. Yeah.
Very ironic.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts, as we wrap things up here, how will you remember him? How do you think, based on your experience, so connected with the music industry as well and radio, how do you think fans are going to remember him? I just feel like he touched so many, different genres, if you will. And I even think about, a song that I loved, which was a relatively recent song that he did with Post Malone. So what a cool crossover. That was 2019. Take What You Want. I mean, I just think he's dabbled in everything at this point.
Literally and figuratively, without a doubt. And I actually saw Black Sabbath way back. At a concert in Memphis, Black Sabbath, Ted Nugent, and a group called Brownsville Station, and so I saw the group in that era when they were at the top of the charts, all the successful albums, and then getting to work with him and seeing him from a different perspective, I think his influence in what we call heavy metal was monumental. I think that what he did for the music industry he was a character, and he was a caricature of himself. But I think he provided to the music world a character, a personality that no one had seen. He was so Ozzy. There's no one else like him. If you had a chance to see him at any point in his career, or just seeing the man, he made a mark.
he definitely is a part of rock and roll history, and his memories will always be there. We'll always remember him. And you know, when you say Ozzy, you know exactly who it is. I mean, there's only one Ozzy. There will never be anyone like him. And so in the moments that we all had a chance to share what he provided, he's unforgettable. He's an unforgettable character.
Indeed, indeed. I think that's very well said. Larry, we want to mention, too, we did get a statement from the family, so we just wanted to share that for folks. This is coming to the whole family, from the whole family, rather. Reading, quote, "It is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne passed away this morning. He was with his family, he was surrounded by love, and we ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time." So sounds like he was surrounded by family, which is you know, a comfort to hear, you know.
Yeah.
Larry, thank you so much for stopping by Live Impact News.
Glad you tracked me down.
I know. We had the search dogs out. Where is Larry? We heard he's around the building.
Yeah, somewhere.
Always great insights.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, we talked about this a bit before when actually we were speaking with Nick Carboni, who was out in the field covering Panthers training camp. It's hot. Fortunately, not to the threshold of weather alert for the heat, which is a great relief. Nevertheless, still very toasty. We do want to make sure that you know, as we look towards the end of the week, weather alert, heat coming back. Let's get a look at the latest weather impacts in the forecast. We'll check in now with this short report here, and we'll come back. We have another live interview coming up in just a couple minutes.
Good Monday afternoon. We are weather alert for dangerous heat that is expected to build throughout the afternoon with active heat advisories in place from now all the way through about 8 o'clock. Now that does include the Charlotte Metro southward, and heat advisories, well, that means heat index value is expected to creep up to 103. So above 103, that's typically the danger zone. So from 1 o'clock all the way through about 6, avoid any strenuous activity, especially outdoors. Stay cool, take frequent breaks from the sun and the shade, and of course, keep up to date with the forecast all day on WCNC+. Actual high temperatures for today will be climbing into the middle to upper 90s across much of the greater Charlotte area. Again, with those peak heat index values reaching closer to around 105 here in the area. There will be a chance for a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially from 4 p.m. on. A couple of locally heavy downpours could produce 1 to even over 2 inches of rainfall, so localized flooding, frequent lightning, and strong gusty winds. That's what we're going to be watching for later on this evening. Will also help to cool us down as well. Any outdoor activities, especially heading this afternoon and evening, make sure to download that WCNC app so you can track those showers and storms in real time. This is all going to be pushed alongside a cold front, so you'll notice today's heat impacts, well, we're in that major zone. But by the time we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, behind that cold front, minor heat impacts from the mountains into the metro as temperatures start to fall a little bit closer back to average. We've already hit the 90s for today. That actually marks day number 15 where we've had consecutive high temperatures 90 degrees and above. In fact, 9 of these days actually featured highs 95 and above. So it should come as no surprise. We are actually in the top 3 hottest Julys on record with an average temperature of 83.9. Of course, we still got 1 more week left of July to go, but I won't imagine that we won't be in the top 5 for that. Weather impacts, weather alert today for the heat. We will carry those storm chances scattered today and tomorrow, and cooling down close to average by the time we get into midweek. Here's that setup. We've got that cold front moving in tonight, bringing us that round of showers and thunderstorms. That low pressure system will develop as the system continues to push down to the south. On Tuesday, that's what's going to bring the cloud cover across the greater Charlotte area, as well as a couple of lingering showers. Futurecast timing this out for you. This is 4 o'clock. A little bit more active north of the metro, including the high country and also in the northern Piedmont. Then by the time we get into 5 to about 8 o'clock, a little bit more active and with scattered showers and thunderstorms across the greater Charlotte area. Eventually, though, drying off late Monday night into early Tuesday, again with those lingering rain chances into Tuesday. How much rainfall we're expecting? Going to be dependent on where the heaviest downpour set up. So don't necessarily focus on location. Focus on how much these rain bands could produce anywhere from 1 to over 2 inches of rainfall. Again, that is where the heaviest bands will set up. Some of us may not even see a drop of rain, but again, that is why we are weather alert with a low excessive rainfall impact across the area. Dew points, well, they stay muggy today and tomorrow. Notice though on Wednesday, that's when we have that drop. Drier air is expected. We'll have those dew points in the lower 60s, much more comfortable air. Meaning for your 3-day forecast as we head throughout the work week, Tuesday, it's going to be a lot cooler. Upper 80s could very well beat that heat streak, depending on when those clouds clear out. Wednesday though, pick of the week, drier air, near average temperatures. Enjoy that because in the 7-day forecast, highs will only go up from here. We'll be back into the middle to upper 90s to end out the work week into the weekend.
There you have it, folks. Of course, our weather impact team will be keeping us posted on weather conditions throughout the day and throughout the rest of the week as we look ahead to a weather alert weekend. Turning the page here, we promised another live interview. We've got it for you here on Live Impact News. We have our investigative reporter, Nate Morabito, joining us here in studio to chat about the latest report that you've put together for us. And this is an interesting topic because this is something that you and I had actually chatted about offline regarding a certain system where folks can donate via, let's say, Facebook or Instagram. And there's some problems, I guess, with a local animal rescue and trying to get their funding that they raise through that fundraiser.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're the one that we're talking to today, because you and I, must have been a couple months ago, we're talking with another nonprofit that maybe was having some issues with some donations that were coming in. And in the end, it seemed to me like it didn't rise to the level of a story potentially, but this tip came in, gosh, probably, 3 weeks ago or so, maybe a little bit less. And instantly it felt like an area that we needed to help this local rescue with. And let me kind of set the table for you. Daisy Bean Rescue. Are you familiar with that one?
I actually am,
Okay.
just through volunteer work and fostering and
I know they're familiar with
plugged
you.
in with the animal rescue. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I know anyone directly with the rescue, but I've definitely heard of them and have had some communications.
Yeah, I mean, you're
through
so
social
plugged
media.
in with that animal community. And so anyways, back in January, I didn't really follow how this works that much. It's just not something that crosses my social media feeds. But essentially, this rescue, which helps dogs both in Charlotte and in Columbia, South Carolina, was asking for donations starting back in January through Instagram, through Facebook. And people were donating because there were animals that needed help with their vet bills. There's, food you need to buy. You're fostering animals. You're eventually, potentially helping get them placed eventually. And so in that process, they raised a ton of money, like more than $8,000. Right, and this is a nonprofit, first of all, but a nonprofit with operational budget that really isn't that high last year. It was like something like $40,000. So $8,000 is a ton of money. And as the months go by, the money isn't coming in to this nonprofit. And they're starting to wonder, like, what's happening here? So eventually, April comes around. Rachel Leeser, who you're going to hear from in a second, starts making some phone calls to PayPal, because PayPal is the third party here, the intermediary that's kind of helping collect the donations and then sending the donations on to the charities. And she's calling, she can't get any answer. She says she can't find a person to get on the phone and explain to her what's going on. Maybe they did something. And you're going to hear her say that in a second too, because that's something that kind of drew me to the story right from the get-go. There wasn't really blaming anyone. They're just trying to figure out how they can get their money. Because eventually, when this money doesn't come in, they have to put a pause. They can't accept any other dogs. And tell me this, Vanessa, I mean, you're so involved. There's not like a day that goes by where like just dogs aren't needed. Like they're fosters or rescued, right?
Yeah, I mean, if for folks who are familiar with, any of our reporting over the last, I'd say, 4 years, I would say post-pandemic, every single day there's a capacity crisis at the shelter here in Charlotte, and they're always relying on not just community members, just one-on-one fosters. They have all these rescues. The rescues pull dogs from the shelter to keep the shelter from getting overcrowded, and that costs money because then they're in charge of vetting the dogs, making sure that they're getting all the medical care, paying for supplies for fosters who then foster through them, and that can be pretty expensive for anyone who owns a pet. That's not necessarily a cheap sort of venture to get into.
Right. I mean, and ultimately, these rescues are saving these dogs' lives.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times these dogs are like on that list where they're going to be the ones that will get euthanized if they're not rescued soon. So anyways, they have to put a pause on this because they can't get their money. And they're like, what's going on here? And there's this donor you're also going to hear from in a second named Meg Marks. She lives in York, South Carolina. She got a dog through this rescue and also saw a post back in January and said, hey, I'm going to give $20 to the cause here. And then in July, this is July, gets an email that says, from PayPal, we were unable to deliver the money to the charity that you wanted. Please select another charity.
Oh, man.
And she's like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I dedicated this money specifically to this nonprofit because I'm connected to it, because I think they do good work. And like the alarm started going off in her head. So let's take a listen if we can, James, and then we'll kind of keep going through it.
We are only receiving a very small portion of the donations that donors have tried to get to us as a result of PayPal holding a lot of the funds that were committed to us. It's about $7,000, and we can't get access to anyone from PayPal to give us any clarity on why we can't get them. It's totally and absolutely fair. It might be user error on our part. We might be doing something wrong, but we need someone to tell us what we're doing wrong so that we can get it right.
They'll ask for donations randomly, especially when they take in a new case. They have a lot of experience with taking in dogs who are experiencing parvo, and those dogs need immediate medical attention. So when I donated most recently, that was what it was for. So I just assumed my money was going right to them for parvo intervention.
Didn't go to them initially, or at least they didn't receive it. So Meg reaches out to WCNC and says, hey, I'm a donor. I don't really know what's happening here. This seems to be really concerning. It ended up being more than $7,000. You heard Rachel say $7,000. It's more than $8,000 here. That over time, this nonprofit just does not have access to. And then donors you have start getting these emails from PayPal saying, we're not going to be able to get the money to this charity, to this rescue. So when we're at Meg's house, I'd already interviewed Rachel, and I started reaching out to PayPal because this felt like urgent. They had to keep turning down dogs. They couldn't help dogs in need in our area. And I emailed PayPal immediately. PayPal responds quickly, says, we're going to look into this. And by the end of the day, PayPal calls Rachel and says, we're going to get this taken care of. We think there was a misunderstanding here. We're going to work to get the money to you as soon as possible. So the next day, we went out and talked to Rachel. This is before the money actually arrived, but there was a promise that the money was going to get there. And this is probably one of my favorite moments in the last month because you can just tell how relieved she is. I mean, she's running an organization. This is not like her full-time job, right? Like this is something that is a passion project for her. Her heart's in it for the animals. And she finally can start saying yes to the animals again. It's huge. So let's take a listen.
Can I please give you a hug? Thank you so much. I literally have been crying all like the past 24 hours. Yes. I'm like beside myself. I literally can't thank you enough.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love it.
You know,
I love to see it.
Rachel was saying, you know, when I started talking to you all, she's not the one that reached out, but she says, I don't know, I always see these stories in the news where some company did something and then the reporter will say the company would not comment. So she really wasn't getting her hopes up. I think she was kind of surprised that it got to this point. I was a little surprised it moved this fast too.
Yeah.
But, you know, the more we learned about the situation, there's always a little complication here. And in the end, the customer service wasn't what it should have been for her. And I really don't think she did anything wrong here. I mean, I feel like that she tried to do everything the right way from the start. She had enrolled in the PayPal Giving Fund, which is for nonprofits. She did that last year. And I think what ended up happening here is there was some kind of miscommunication or glitch where instead of depositing this money into Daisy Bean Rescue's account, PayPal mailed physical checks to an address that was listed with the nonprofit that she moved from in December.
Oh, wow.
Remember, this all started in January when the donations started coming in. So it was just like the perfect storm of a situation that honestly dragged on way too long. She really did try to get this resolved. And you can tell just by hearing her. I mean, she seems like just such a sweet person and just means well. And to not be able to get those answers was really difficult. I'm just glad we were able to kind of answer the call for them and get the needle moved, because they're already accepting dogs again.
Yeah.
And she kind of gave me this list of just all the things $8,600 could pay for. You can imagine, because you're so in this community. I mean, that is a ton of money, from, spay and neuters to helping with behavioral classes to make sure dogs can get adopted, to heartworm treatments. I mean, it just goes on. Dog food. Mm-hmm. I mean, what a thrill that we were able to play a small part in getting to this point. And thanks to Meg, who reached out to us. That is something I always try to ask people to do. If we don't know about it, we cannot help you. And the worst thing we can say is, I don't know that we're going to be able to do anything in this situation.
Yeah.
But more often than not, I think, I see there's some avenue where I can help. Even if it's not do a news story, which this story is going to air tonight at 6 on WCNC. But at the least, there's usually some kind of path where we can get involved and maybe help. Now, you're going to have some issues that are more consumery, that are, you bought an appliance and there's an issue with a warranty, or you bought a car. One-offs like that, we're generally not going to be able to help you with those. Those are, strictly consumery kind of things. But when there's big picture, egregious situations that really have impacts in our community beyond a house, this is across 2 states, we want to invest the time and resources to see what we can do to help. And thank goodness we did in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad to see the outcome, because I know it can be tough when you try to reach and communicate with some of the larger companies. It can be difficult even from a social media perspective, maybe trying to get a hold of certain social media companies. I know you went through PayPal in the situation, so that kind of, I think, maybe made a better path. I think that was really smart on your part. And to your point about this maybe being a larger issue, I mean, I know this is just one specific case, but I mean, think about how many times you've, maybe gone on Facebook and you've seen friends say, oh, today it's my birthday. I'm raising money for this charity. Please donate to my Facebook fundraiser for XYZ charity. I mean, that's all handled through PayPal. I mean, that's how the money gets dispersed in those cases. So, I mean, I feel there's so many people out there who have donated through this type of platform that maybe, I'm not saying it's going to happen in every single case, but maybe just keep an eye on whether the funds actually make it to the group, or, if you're one of these groups, I know you're watching the money anyways, but keep a close eye on whether you're getting what was stated on this online fundraiser.
Yeah, and PayPal will tell you too, you got to monitor your account. And they want, particularly these charities, which I'm curious, if there's other charities that have dealt with this, I'd love to hear from you, because I think there may be a broader issue. But you also have PayPal, which is a highly reputable company that is trying to ensure that it's doing the right thing every time. Nobody likes when this kind of situation happens, when something falls through the crack. So I've got to believe in good faith the company is trying to work hard to prevent this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But like with everything, if you don't advocate for yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. And so you've got to monitor your account. You got to make sure your information's up to date. I mean, who would have thought that moving houses might have an impact on her getting checks that were mailed to an outdated address? It seemed like a stretch that would even come to your mind.
Yeah.
But maybe if she had updated the address, the checks would have come to her new house. That being said, it still would have been kind of weird to her. Why am I getting physical checks at this day and age?
Right.
So, I think that's really critical, is that you're monitoring the account, and also you're reaching out to the PayPal Giving Fund if you're a nonprofit. And if you're just dealing with PayPal directly, PayPal itself has a customer service kind of outlet too.
Yeah.
I just think people need to speak up. They need to monitor their situation, and if there's a last resort, we are here to help. I would like to think that we have a pretty good, batting average when it comes to these kind of situations. But every time something like this happens, we can't always get involved. If it rises to a level where animals, humans, housing, safety is involved, health is involved, we try to make it a priority to do what we can.
Yeah, I mean, you've been doing great work, so I'm just so glad to see that this is another success story on the list. As you alluded to, the fact that $8,000 plus, I mean, that is going to make a difference. I think about, not only just the, average dogs, if you will, that typically get pulled from a shelter by a rescue. A lot of these rescues, they also pull I want to say dogs that might be tougher to place in homes and adopt out. For example, we know that senior dogs, because of medical care that they need, extensive care in some cases, might not make it out of a shelter, but a rescue will take a chance on a dog like that. And then also, the way things are, spend a lot of money to try to get that dog in good health. You talked about, I heard you mention parvo treatment. That's expensive. That's usually a puppy, illness that we see. And that can be it's extensive and laborious and expensive treatment too. And in some cases, if a rescue doesn't take a chance on a dog and they don't have the funding, that dog might not make it out of the shelter.
And I was actually thinking about this today. I have a rescue. Basically, we've rescued 2 dogs over the last, 20 years or so. And our current dog, Fig, is a rescue from a local nonprofit. And I never really thought about what it took to ensure that he was in a position that he could be eventually adopted by us. Mm-hmm. And it's all because there was a rescue that was willing to say, hey, there's this dog that was wandering the streets. It needs some care. It's going to need a foster home so that eventually it can be placed into a forever home. Behind every dog like that, there is a rescue, there are volunteers, there are donors who are trying to make sure these animals get to places where they're taken care of. And it hurts my heart that for a period of time, they were having to say no to those animals through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to see. We want to see people speak up. Meg did in this case, said, hey, these are my friends. I adopted my dog through them. I gave money to them. I want to make sure they're treated right. She reached out to us. Thank goodness she did, because I don't know what their situation would be like had she not. She gets a lot of credit there.
Yeah. Thank goodness for that. Nate, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing your full piece. You said 6 o'clock tonight?
6 o'clock, yep.
All right. As folks keep it here on WCNC Plus, once Live Impact News is wrapped up at 4 o'clock, we go straight into the evening news and keep it through, obviously, 6 and beyond, because then you'll see Nate's reporting. Nate, thanks for joining us.
Happy to do it.
All right. Folks, we got another live feed coming into the Live Impact News studio. This is a Senate Judiciary subcommittee meeting. So this is essentially what we're seeing, kind of boiling down the very long title for this hearing. It looks at border security, and specifically you have lawmakers who are trying to look at border security as it stood under the Biden administration. Let's listen in right now here on Live Impact News.
Javier Harvey Vega Jr. Remember that name. Jordi Vega, my second baby, another amazing son, joined the United States Marine Corps as well. Same as his big brother. He was deployed to Iraq 3 times. We nearly lost Jordy when the convoy he was traveling in hit an IED. On his 4th deployment, this time to Afghanistan, he and his men were ambushed and Jordy was shot in the arm. He served 9 years in the military. Jordy now lives in Louisiana and works for an American company. Sunday, August the 3rd, 2014 was a day that started off with wonderful memories of our U.S. Marine and Border Patrol agent son and his family visiting us. The entire day was planned, good quality family time, a barbecue, shopping, rifle sighting in preparation for hunting season, and some fishing to end the day before they headed back home. Instead, late that afternoon, our beautiful day turned into a nightmare when 2 criminal illegal aliens decided to ambush us in an attempt to steal both 4-wheel drive trucks. The 2 illegals jumped out of the stolen vehicle they were driving, and without hesitation or a warning, they began shooting at us, without even asking us to hand over the keys. In the process, Harvey was shot in the chest. My husband, Javier, was shot in the back, and they continued shooting at the rest of us, which included me, my daughter-in-law, 2 grandsons, and their friend. When I heard the yelling coming from the illegals while they shot at us, I fell back off the chair that I was sitting on, and I struggled to get up, but instead had to crawl to my son, who had tried to pick up an AR, which he had left leaning by the truck to defend us. Do you know what it is like to see your son go down after being shot? Do you know what it is like to hear the gunshots, bullets whizzing past you? Do you know what it's like when your mind is trying to process everything, telling your grandchildren to duck, while thinking your son is on the ground with a bullet in his chest? Do you know what it's like to hear your son's last words to his father, Keep shooting, Dad. Keep shooting were his last words. That should never have happened. The illegals not only possessed a stolen vehicle, they also possessed guns that were stolen. They each had a long list of crimes, including holding a gun to a toddler's head if the family did not hand over the keys, their money, their phones, their vehicles. Who does this to a toddler? They had served time in county jail, been previously deported, fined $10 in order to self-deport again. These same illegals had robbed our friend Douglas Light on his very own ranch in La Feria, holding a gun to his grandson Paul's rib cage and threatening to shoot him if Doug did not hand over the keys to the truck. Doug did as he was told, and the illegals drove off with the truck, trailer, and the lawn equipment. Going back to the nightmare that we lived, had my husband and I not returned fire, the illegals would have killed everyone there, leaving no witnesses, and that's including my grandbabies. 5 days from today, it will be Harvey's 11th anniversary. 11 years is how long I have lived with survivor's guilt. 11 years is how I have struggled, how much I have struggled to survive without my baby. 11 years I have lived with flashbacks during every waking moment. 11 years we have celebrated the boys' birthdays, graduations, weddings, starting new families, new careers, and amazing accomplishments without my baby. 11 years I have witnessed how his killing has impacted the community, our families, his work families, his childhood friends. I have seen the heartbreak in everyone's voice, hearts, and actions. Illegal aliens have impacted American lives in a very negative way. They have no regard for human life, as I witnessed firsthand. The illegals that killed Harvey also shot my husband in the back and shot at innocent children and women. My grandbabies and their friend were only 8 and 11 years old. Take a moment and imagine your child or grandchild witnessing this horror. How does that make you feel? Would you be okay with this? Had our immigration laws been enforced, our son would be here. Barack Obama failed me, my family, and our community, and our nation. My husband now suffers from PTSD. He is handicapped because of the extent of damage the bullet caused. Nerves and ligaments were severed when the .45 caliber bullet traveled from one side of his waist, narrowly missing his spine before exiting on the other side of his body. I want you to know that we do not have an issue with people coming to America legally. We do have immigration laws in place for a reason, and they need to be enforced. And as politicians, you need to allow those in charge to enforce these laws. We are not a lawless nation. I myself was not born in America. I am the daughter of an American-born father and a Mexican-born mother. However, my father did not smuggle or sneak us into this country. After marrying my mother, he stayed by her side in Mexico until he applied to move us back to his country. He waited patiently, filled out all the necessary documents, and paid all the fees. He never even asked for government assistance, making do with his pay as a farmer and carefully planning for times when the weather did not permit work. He taught me and my siblings to be God-fearing, hardworking, law-abiding citizens. My 2 older siblings and I are proud naturalized citizens, and my little brother is a U.S. citizen. La Feria, Texas, my little town's population is about 7,000. Our little community has lost 3 young lives to illegal alien crime. Noemi Dominguez, a 26-year-old teacher murdered by criminal illegal alien Angel Maturino Resendiz in 1999. Some of you might remember him as a railroad killer. He was a serial killer that murdered so many people throughout America. Javier Harvey Vega Jr., 36-year-old, father of 3 boys, a U.S. Marine and Border Patrol agent, murdered in cold blood in front of his family by Gustavo Tijerina Sandoval and Ismael Hernandez Vallejo in 2014. They both had a long list of crimes they committed throughout the Rio Grande Valley. If committing these crimes was their job, it doesn't seem to me like they were producing anything in the community. They were not contributing to the community. Maria Macias, a 37-year-old mother of 3 beautiful young daughters, killed in a car accident caused by illegal alien Bedelin Alegría in 2022, who instead of trying to render aid, fled from the scene of the accident. That's 3 young lives from my town. This is what family separation really looks like. Not one angel family will ever see our loved ones again. Their lives were taken by illegal aliens. Now that you know a mother that had to shoot back to defend and protect her family, do you still believe we should have open borders? Open borders have consequences, and you can see from what I have experienced, because of the crimes committed by illegals, the pain lives with us for the rest of our lives. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution and work for we the people. That means working with your fellow politicians, regardless of which side of the aisle you are on. You are supposed to work together representing us, ensuring that those coming in are obeying our immigration laws. They need to be properly vetted for not only for their safety, but yours and ours. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Ms. Vega. Ms. Fleischaker?
So once again, folks, we've been listening into just a bit of this Senate subcommittee, basically looking at border security under the Biden administration. More on this to come as we're able to bring it to you throughout the afternoon. But meantime, you are seeing, look at the bottom right corner of your screen, stocks, at least this is the Dow Jones, as we get closer to the closing bell. Looking like a pretty good day in the green, up about 200 points or so. We can tell you Dow's looking good on the day. So is S&P. There's some good earnings reports in some industries, including health. Stocks not looking too great today on the tech front, which is why we're actually seeing NASDAQ in a slump right now. It's actually in the red at this very moment, but we'll see how things shape up as once again we get right at that closing bell. We did want to mention before we turn things over to the news at 4 here on WCNC Plus, we've got a great swath of coverage coming for you, Panthers training camp related. Our sports team here, sports director Nick Carboni and reporter Danielle Stein are going to be bringing us continuous coverage throughout the afternoon, evening, and even mornings over the next couple of days as the Panthers training camp is getting underway this week. So make sure you're keeping it here to WCNC Plus throughout the day for that coverage. We also want to mention, as we are getting closer to the new school year. Can you believe that? We've got the school supply drive. We really hope y'all join us in making an impact on the community. We're partnering with United Way to collect as many school supplies as possible. As we know, unfortunately, some students do start the new year with not enough of the supplies that they need to be successful. So we have for you here a look at a QR code. If for some reason maybe you're watching on your phone and you're unable to scan that QR code, you can go to WCNC.com/community or go to the WCNC Charlotte mobile app, because we'll have the very latest within the featured section and also the community section on how to donate. And there are various ways to give. But just so you know, the deadline to donate is August 11th. And I know that is a couple weeks away, but you know how things kind of sneak up.
Summer is flying by.
I cannot believe this. I mean, we're basically almost to August at this point.
And I still need to take my family on a summer vacation, so I better get on that.
Time is running out. Shall I suggest the North Carolina mountains?
I
know we've been talking about, the need to get folks, back up and running in western North Carolina and the high country following Helene, and that's been a big push we've been seeing from Chamber of Commerce and other advocates. So, maybe that's a great way to escape the heat.
I agree.
All right.